I have made sure to only eat meat today.
You are a smart man, a smart fries. Rosedale Barbecue, again, open right now, and they're going to be open until 4 o'clock tomorrow. So if you're wondering about July 4th, you want to stop by, pick up some food, some meat, some barbecue, some ribs, and for your cookout, grilling, whatever you're going to be doing this weekend, they're open up tomorrow until 4 o'clock, and the sale of $19.34 slab of ribs is going on through Sunday. So starting today through Sunday, you can get that sale. You can take advantage of that. It's Rosedale Barbecue, 600 Southwest Boulevard, KCK, where we are at today. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. 913-912-4810, the text line to join us. My wish came true last night, and then I regretted it immediately.
Was I in it?
No, you were not in my. You were not in my.
I was in your dream, and you go, "Wow, I wish he wasn't."
No, that is not true. That is not true. I've never dreamed about you before.
Liar.
My wish was that they would resume the game after the fifth inning, and they wouldn't just call it official with the Royals losing 1-0. And I'm like, man, this is going to suck if they just cash this game. They've done it before earlier this year. Royals were the beneficiaries of that.
It helped the Royals. So part of me was like, I understand. The Royals got one in their favor.
And you know what? Cole Reagans is tied for the lead in complete games this year with one. That game. He got a complete game. Cole Reagans did that game. So it may have only been 5 innings, but that's a 1 next to Cole Reagans' complete game this year. Maybe it's an asterisk. Doesn't matter. So the Royals got one earlier this year, and I was like, man, that would suck because, I'm confident the Royals are going to find a way to win this thing, and the bats are going to get going, and, they're going to figure it out. And maybe the Rays by in town and having to sit out the rain delay, not in the comfort of their clubhouse. Maybe the Royals would be more enthused and ready to go to play some baseball after this long rain delay. So I'm like, man, hopefully they get a chance to go out there and play. And they did. I'm like, yes. And now I'm like, damn it, why didn't they just cash that thing in the fifth inning? Because you would have saved 4 different guys out of the bullpen that pitched last night, Schreiber and Stratton, and those are the main 2 that you would have saved. And
it did not look good.
Yeah, and you know what? You would have Bobby wouldn't have the home run that he has that goes on to his record this year and his stats. It's one of the things, but. The takeaway from last night's game is, unfortunately, they had to use the bullpen guys. I mean, Brady Singer was at 88 pitches, so I think he would have got 1 more inning, certainly. He was upset when the tarp came on because he knew his day was over, his night was over.
And no one hates rain more than Brady Singer.
Boy, that guy, if there's a man yells at clouds, it is Brady Singer. He
legitimately yells at clouds.
Absolutely, he did in Florida, and he's, you saw he was frustrated in the dugout, and I understand it. And I wonder how much there's a frustration, and I don't think Brady Singer would ever say this because you're not going to throw your teammates under the bus, and it's one of those just crazy baseball things, okay? It is one of those oddities to where there are pitchers in a certain year that are just going to get the run support. It just happens. It's just random. And there are pitchers in a certain year that whenever they go out there, why? Why is this guy not getting run support? He has 16 starts this year, 17 starts this year, does Brady Singer. 13 of those, he's got 2 or fewer runs of run support. 2 or fewer in 13 of his starts. And that's rough. And I don't know if the frustration of, the tarp coming on and him not pitching and having to come out for the fifth is, here we go again. I'm down 1-0 and I'm leaving the game. There's a 0 on the board for my team. There's a 1 on the board for them. A 1 is what I've given up. And I'm going to take the L. Or I'm in line to take the L here. And I can't go out for another inning because he's a competitive dude. I think at times he's a competitive dude. I think at times he sort of loses it on the mound and sort of melts down from time to time. I think he has those games too, but I think ultimately he's competitive.
Yeah.
And I think he wanted to go out there for the 6th inning. It didn't work out, but it's this random thing that's going on with Brady Singer this year that every start but 3 he's left the game with 2. He's got 2 or fewer runs of support this year. I mean, he's just not getting – Lugo's getting run support. Lugo's been awesome, but he's also getting some run support. Alec Marsh getting run support. Brady Singer not getting run support this year, and I have to imagine that's got to be something that's frustrating because whether we care about wins in today's baseball, getting the W, who's the pitcher of record in that game, pitchers care about it. they'd like to be the pitcher of record. They'd like to be the guy that has the W next to his name and not what's his record? 4-7 now?
4-5.
4-5. Okay. Michael Wacha's 4-6. So I was giving Brady Singer Michael Wacha's record before last night.
Can't do that, Jason.
I cannot do that. No.
Just so you know, you can't do that.
I can't do that. No, but Michael Wacha's 4-6 this year with a sub-4 ERA. Brady Singer is 4-5 with a barely over 3 ERA on the season, a 3.12 ERA, right? Isn't that what he's sitting at right now?
3.05.
3.05 now?
I'm seeing now after that
3.05?
last game.
Yeah, 3.12 what he went into the game with. I should probably update it from yesterday's in my mind of what Brady Singer was and then combining it with Wacha. But it sucks from that standpoint. But the good side of it is the conversation the three of us had, me, you, Jack, about Alec Marsh or Brady Singer. Sitting in the position we are right now, at this point, either one.
Hey, time out. Who said Brady?
You said Brady, I said Alec, but now I'm like either one.
Hey, who said Brady?
Jack, are you still Alec? Are you Brady? Like I'm probably more in line, Alec, because of the strikeouts. But Brady Singer since then,
hater.
Brady Singer. I don't want to go back off a few starts and just completely change my thoughts on it. But what Brady Singer has done since that New York game, okay, and that's a part of it. But since that New York game, what Brady Singer has done has given me more and more data points of. While some of the underlying metrics aren't exactly there, showing that Brady Singer has been unlucky or this is absolutely going to remain, etc., the way that he's going out and pitching, and 3 starts this year, he's given up more than 3 earned runs in only 3 starts this year, and yet the guy's still 4-5 on the season. Jack, is it a distinction even worth making between the two, or are you still on one side or the other from what we're seeing with this unfortunate year where Brady Singer can't get run support, where he could, in his 17 starts, he could have 10 wins. I mean, he could have 9 or 10 wins right now in the season. Not leading the league like Seth Lugo, but his record certainly is more deserving than what it is so far.
Oh, certainly. I mean, this is maybe not as comparable to his 2022 season, but it's the closest thing that we've had in his young major league career. In comparison to Marsh, I think what you've seen from Brady over the last 3 or 4 outings is more of the willingness to throw other pitches. I think that Yankees start was the maybe not the last line, but certainly the wake-up call of, look, if you're facing a good lineup, this 2-pitch stuff isn't going to work anymore. And we've been trying to tell you that over and over and over again, but you've been reluctant to throw these other pitches. And then against the Dodgers, he starts going with the 4-seam fastball. And against that lineup, he has a quality start. And then against Texas, he only goes 5 innings, but 1 run. And then last night, rain-shortened game, he might have gotten into the 6th, but 5 innings, 1 run. And I think if that was just your placeholder for Brady Singer every 5th day, hey, he's going to give you 5 innings of 1 or 2 runs, you're going to take that 9 times out of 10. As for Marsh, I think Marsh gives you more of the upside of he may go 7 innings with 8 or 9 strikeouts. However, he may have that implosion like he did in Oakland, where he doesn't have his stuff, his command's not there, and it doesn't look very good. But the good thing about it is we are now to the point of they could be interchangeable, whereas 2 or 3 or 4 weeks ago it was, I'm going Marsh way over Brady Singer, although Sterling said he'd go Brady Singer over Alec Marsh.
But I'm a smart man.
I would say the best thing about it, though, when you're looking at your 4 and 5s in the rotation, it's good to know that we feel confident in both of them at this point. It's not, hey, either one of them because they're so bad. I mean, I can't find any good parts of their game or good parts of their arsenal. Right now, I'd take either one of them. Now, for Brady, I would love to see him go up against a really good lineup again. He faced the Dodgers, 3 runs, and we kind of saw toward the end him spiral back to Brady Singer a little bit. But since then, I mean, if you're going to give up 1 run over 5 innings against Tampa, against Texas, those are 2 teams still hunting for a wild card spot. So he's starting to earn that respect back of, okay, he can face above average lineups, not just dominate the White Sox or dominate the Marlins or dominate pick a bad team out there. The Rockies soon next week. Like, he is facing competent. Yeah, the A's. Pick a competent lineup and see what Brady Singer does against them. And I think yesterday, he had 16 to 18 swings and misses. That's something we haven't seen from him a lot this year. Yeah. So I do think there's been a bit of a turning point for him in realizing if I am going to be that guy in September and going into the playoffs, I got to be able to trust my stuff other than just a sinker and a slider.
Am I taking crazy pills here,
No, you're
boys? Why have we acted like his 17 starts have only come against the A's or the White Sox? He's a 3.05 ERA, Jack. Why are we sorry, but why are we comparing? Alec Marsh has been really good for a 5, right? He's been great for a 5. He's been basically a 4, right? I think we'd agree with that. Brady Singer's been a 2 or a 3 this year. I understand the underlying numbers, but newsflash, the underlying numbers for Brady Singer are actually better than Alec Marsh. Surprisingly, guys, we're talking about strikeouts, right? Brady Singer has a better strikeout number than Alec Marsh, right? Why are we all of a sudden acting like Alec Marsh is this stud? He had one phenomenal game. Phenomenal game, right? You can't take that away. But Brady Singer's been damn consistent this year. It's almost like we have this, and I think it's to an extent fair. We saw what he's been in the past, where he will spiral. He'll have games where he gets blown up. And after we saw the game against the Yankees, we all thought, oh my gosh, here we go again.
Yeah.
That was the only game that you really point to and say Brady had an absolute meltdown. And everyone has that against the Yankees outside of Alec Marsh, right?
Cleveland, he didn't get out of the fourth.
Yeah, Cleveland was bad too.
But, I mean, he had 10 base runners in 3 2/3. And that was right before the Yankees. And that's when we had the conversation,
Sure.
was right after the Yankees.
But my point is,
with more data has come in. But go ahead.
But just in general, this year, 17 games,
Yeah.
94 innings, 89 strikeouts, 3.05 ERA, and a 1.18 WHIP. Why are we not acting like that's phenomenal? Because it is. I mean, that is a phenomenal pitcher. And again, I have my reservations about Brady. I don't think he's necessarily going to be a 3.05 ERA guy. But when he keeps putting these numbers up, why don't we just give him the credit he deserves? Because he's deserving of praise right now instead of starting every single conversation with Brady as, well, but what about Marsh? What about this guy? What about someone else? Brady's done it. 17 starts, 3.05 ERA. That's nails.
Well, my point about Marsh was just to give Brady Singer credit. Was coming out of that New York Yankees game when he had those back-to-back games where he didn't make it out of the fourth against the Guardians, and Quatraro had to come and pull him because the game was going to get out of hand. He only gave up 2 earned runs in that game, but again, 10 base runners. He was working around some trouble. The Royals end up winning that game, so that was the good move by Quatraro to go ahead and get him out after 70 pitches. He doesn't have it. He's laboring. Let's move on here and hand it over to the bullpen. And then the Yankees game happened, and it's like, all right, so what's going on with this guy? What are the good lineups he's faced this year, and how has he looked against some of those, better lineups, et cetera? Seattle, he's had good outings against good lineups, so it's not like it's been he's throwing against the A's and the White Sox or the Rockies, et cetera, bad teams. But at that time, when we saw those games, and then Marsh had the outing that he had, it was like, you see the high level of what Marsh can give you against a legit lineup like the Yankees, and what can he be moving forward, and do you take the upside? The credit I'm giving to Brady Singer is when we had that conversation, all he's done since then is go, 23 and a third innings and giving up 6 earned runs. Over 23
negative
innings.
reinforcement.
That's exactly what it is. See, we've done it again, Jack.
Yeah.
We've done it again. We are. Who's next? You know what? Line somebody up. Who's next for us to clown and for them to go off and start looking awesome? We've gone the route of MJ or Velasquez for the 2 weeks that he got hot before they sent him back down. We went the route of Renfroe. We've gone the route of MJ, Vinny last week. A couple weeks ago. Brady Singer on June 12th. Bring it on. Who's next up, Jack?
Will Smith.
Will Smith? I mean, name somebody, Jack.
MacArthur?
Let's clown him. Let's get after him.
Yeah, you might need to go back to the bullpen there, and maybe it's Schreiber or something to get Schreiber back to April.
Let me tell you about how
form.
awful Schreiber is, all right? Do they DFA Schreiber? Just get rid
Yeah, I mean, it feels like with Brady Singer, he is one of those guys that I think we are quick to jump on and criticize because of what we've seen throughout his career, right? And I really do believe that it always points back to the fact that for years it was the stubbornness of not throwing those other pitches and kind of using last year as not an opportunity as a evaluation year of, hey, we're not going to be good anyway. I might as well see if I can use these pitches over the entire season. And he didn't do that, and it was a career worst year for him. But, yeah, this year, through 17 starts or 18 starts, you would take this in a heartbeat. This is exactly what it felt like the ceiling was going to be for Brady Singer, a low 3.00 ERA guy. Strikeouts have been up a little bit. Now, I think in comparison to Marsh, because Marsh also doesn't have the best track record. Last year, that we can like the swing and miss stuff, his ERA wasn't that good. He couldn't keep the ball in the yard, and when he faced good lineups, he usually got lit up by them. Now, this year, he's faced the Orioles twice, didn't give up a run against them. He's faced Seattle. He's faced the Padres. He's faced the Twins on the road. He's faced the Yankees. He's faced Texas. And, yeah, some of those starts did not go so well. But maybe it is the overall arsenal of what we look at, the visual part of it, of when you can see him blow 98 by Jose Ramirez down the middle. Whereas Brady Singer, when he's on, I would say last night it felt like he was on. He's got that slider at the back foot or the slider tailing away that looks really good. And, yeah, the strikeout numbers aren't as good for Alec Marsh, but maybe that's a part of it. And just in baseball, when you see somebody throw that hard, and he's got a really good knuckle curve as well, you want to say, yeah, that's the guy I'm taking. He's the bulldog. We're Brady Singer now. What do we have? 3 or 4 years of visualization of watching him pitch, and he's the quickest guy to go and criticize in this rotation because of what the track record was of, I remember last year, the year before that, or he doesn't throw that third pitch. Therefore, if he's struggling, it's because he's being stubborn, not because his stuff isn't very good in that game. And we don't have that for Alec Marsh. So I think, for you and I, Jason, there's a lot of Royals fans out there that would say I'd take Marsh over Brady Singer. But the numbers, as Sterling brought up, they are good. We are now 17 starts into the year. That's no small sample size. This is likely closer to who he is than who he was last year.
Well, and I think a little bit is perception too, and I'll present this as for me, and maybe some of it is this and that. Brady, we've seen as Jack you're talking about, that we've seen some of the warts. We've been through the frustrations with him of not being willing to either develop or throw a third pitch, and with Alec Marsh, he's so far exceeded expectations of what I thought he would be. He becomes even better in my mind. And I think that's sort of just some natural perception that happens in sports. And I'll give you an example of, so Marsh may benefit from the fact of, man, his stuff makes you, it sort of entices you of what he can be. And I'll give you an example of a guy whose stuff or perception of stuff entices people, but it doesn't actually track with what we're seeing, and that's Carlos Hernandez.
Yeah.
Because we hear people talk about stuff all the time with Carlos Hernandez and stuff. And, man, if we're really just looking at, like, he's got this amazing fastball. I mean, vertical break on his four-seam fastball, he's ranked 425th out of 455 pitchers. Out of 455 pitchers this year, starters and relievers, his vertical break on his fastball is ranked 425th. His horizontal movement is 167th.
That thing is straight.
His whiff percentage, he's 396th on the four-seam fastball. Batting average, he's 151st. Run value, he's 147th, just simply on the four-seam fastball. Like, we look at it and go, man, he's got amazing stuff. Look at that fastball. It's like, yeah, but that fastball doesn't work. So, and Marsh, Jack, to your point, just reaches back and throws 98 right by Jose Ramirez. He's working 95, and he's got to get the out, and he goes and gets 98 in the first inning to get out of that thing. And it's like, all right, that thing works. That thing, it's you see the stuff that goes along with that. I'm here's where I'm at, and why I brought up the Brady Singer and Alec Marsh discussion. What I was thinking about last night is I'm much more enthusiastic now about the 4 and the 5, rather than saying, who am I choosing in that fourth game? I'll go with the guy that gives me more upside of maybe a dominant performance against a good lineup. And now I'm going, if they go Singer or Marsh, I'm confident the Royals have a really good chance of winning that night. And you may get a really solid performance from that particular guy because, again, 3 of his starts this year, only 3 of the 17 has he given up more than 3 earned runs. Now, one of those was only 3 2/3 innings when he gave up 2. But still, you're talking about the entire season. He gave up 4 against Seattle. He gave up 5 against Toronto, and then he gave up 6 earned runs against the Yankees. Those are the 3 times.
I accept your apology.
I don't remember giving one. I don't remember. Jack, did you?
I did not. No, I did not.
I don't remember that at all. Interesting. Huh. Sound like my wife. So I'm just joking.
So you are dreaming about me.
Yes, that's exactly right. Man, do we have conversations all the time? And she's like, I want more sterling. I'm like, oh, you mean jewelry, right? Yes. I'm like, you're the only one, honey. We are hanging out at Rosedale. I want some more Rosedale. That's what I want. Rosedale Barbecue, our location today, 600 Southwest Boulevard. KCK is where we are at. They've got their 90th anniversary, 90th birthday, whatever you want to call it. They opened up their doors July 4th, 1934, and they have been serving phenomenal, fantastic, authentic KC-style barbecue for 90 years, and they are offering a slab of ribs for just $19.34 in honor of the founding year. That sale goes from right now and through Sunday. They are open right now. Tomorrow, on July 4th, they will be open until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you want to stop in, get some food, get some lunch, grab some food to go and take to a cookout or, a gathering, whatever it is, whatever your party's going to be, Rosedale's a great spot.
Pretend you cooked it. Just
like,
pick up Rosedale Barbecue and be like, yeah, I was cooking this all night, y'all.
Low and slow, baby. 2 days. I've been cooking this for 2 days. This thing has been out there on the smoker.
Jason, you really learned how to cook, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even know you owned a smoker. Who knew? Who knew? It's just you go and buy one, and sometimes you just have the gift. Sometimes you're just natural at it.
Yeah.
Take a taste of these guys. First slab of ribs I've ever smoked. I'm excited about them. I think they taste pretty good, but I don't know. I want to get everybody else's opinion. Well, we was in Kentucky at the in-laws and my brother-in-law. We were having a big family dinner, and he smoked some ribs, and so we had some ribs from different places, a different place there, and he was like, "Well, Jason, I want you to try my rib. I want you to try my." And they were good, and he was like, "I want to see what they taste like from, a guy who's a snob when it comes to ribs." And they were pretty good. He's like, "Don't eat those ribs. They're ribs from some random places. Like, try mine. They're good." Like, all right. So that's what you get, man. Especially around here, people take some pride in that stuff. I think all over the country, but certainly we take pride in our barbecue and our barbecue restaurants in Rosedale, one of those spots as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling, talk a little bit more about the Rawls. I want to get into the quick descent and fall of Tim Anderson, and I don't mean the fall from when Jose Ramirez clocked him. I mean a quick fall in terms of his career.
That was a quick fall, though.
That was a very quick fall.
Was that when it started? Was that when it started? I mean, that might have been when it started.
It happened a couple of years before then. He was OPS in like 5-6 at a time, but it is funny to still say.
Jose Ramirez was a monster. As soon as he connected with Tim Anderson's face, that talent left. It just went on. And it went into Jose Ramirez's right hand. Right there. That's exactly that's why Jose Ramirez has gotten so good. He took Tim Anderson's talent along with his own.
If Thanos punched him and he just turned to dust as soon as Jose Ramirez connected.
His career did, that's for sure. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next.
Visit Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway this summer for exciting live sports action. We've got the biggest screens around, and ESPN Bet is live in...
barbecue locations. They are celebrating their 90th anniversary, 90 years in business, and opening up July 4th, 1934. And $19.34, you'll get a slab of ribs today through Sunday. It is open right now, is Rosedale. The great location, 600 Southwest Boulevard, KCK, open tomorrow until 4 o'clock. And again, that sale on the slab of ribs goes through Sunday. We will talk with Matt Derrick coming up at 11 o'clock. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. We'll get some Chiefs talk with Matt. We will hang out with Mick Schaefer in the noon hour as well. We got the cuts before the show is over. And I know it's been, it's been a couple of years now. When did the fight happen? That was like August of last year with Ramirez.
He was bad before. That's my point. He was bad before then.
Right, but I'm just wondering, like, when, like, at that time, because he was okay in 22, and then in August, like,
23, yeah, August of 23.
August of 23, so and I'm just looking through like his game logs or whatever, and he was still batting like 240 at that time and OPSing like 5. So he was bad all year. So maybe Jose Ramirez just took the last of it away. But this guy finished 7th in the MVP. Won the batting title in 2019, was an all-star in 21 and 22, and then as a 30-year-old, OPS'd 582, and this year OPSing 463, and now he's DFA'd. And maybe that's just, is that more of a normal falling off the cliff in baseball that we don't see it too often? That, this is, we don't talk about it from stars like this. Maybe a guy who's middle of the pack and all of a sudden is just done and out of baseball. We don't really discuss it as much. Whereas the superstars don't have this drastic of a fall off. But man, he was so damn talented. And I think, maybe I notice it more because I hated Tim Anderson, and I enjoyed the Jose Ramirez right hook because Tim Anderson seemed very obnoxious all the time. But I don't know that I remember such a drastic fall from a guy who was 7th in the MVP, back-to-back All-Stars, and then since then he's OPS'd at 500 in the last 2 years.
He's only 31.
Yeah.
So it's not like he was just, the natural aging curve, but you looked from just even the underlying numbers. All of a sudden, 2022 was great, and then 2023, all of a sudden, just fell off a cliff. It's wild, and we saw him in the Royals Miami series, and his swing looked broke. Like, I mean, fastballs that were 93 were way by him.
Yeah.
Just mentally, it looked like he didn't want to be there, obviously. You're playing with Miami. They're horrible, but you haven't been good in 2 years. I don't see him bouncing back because he was never really good defensively. That's always the knock, was defensively he was horrible. Has not gotten better. And quite frankly, you look at his just speed in general, his sprint speed, it's drastically gone down, even from 2022. Don't know if there's other injuries at play here, but just the physical traits of Tim Anderson doesn't seem like a 31-year-old. It seems more like a 37, 38-year-old.
He's up near the top of guys that I think of that I just disliked very much so.
Him and Josh Donaldson.
Josh Donaldson certainly was up there.
Jose Bautista.
Brett Lowry. Jose Bautista was up there.
Yeah.
Brett Lowry.
Pierzynski was a guy that I think everybody hated, though. I don't think it was like,
Can I tell you something that I feel embarrassed to say? So
that
this
you
is a little secret.
Which is fine.
The reason why I liked him, not when he played the Royals, of course, obviously. I liked the trash talk and the smack. It was somewhat interesting, and he didn't do it just against the Royals. He did it against everyone.
That's true.
There's somebody, A.J. Pierzynski, that I somewhat, you never admitted it, but now that he's retired long enough, I can say it. I liked A.J. Pierzynski.
That's fine. You didn't like Tim Anderson, though.
No, I did not like Tim Anderson,
Jack, is there somebody that's unreasonably that you've hated? Because Josh Donaldson, just for some reason, I don't think he was, maybe it was the whole, Blue Jays thing and playing the Blue Jays a couple of years, just sort of sticks with you. But Josh Donaldson's certainly up there. But, man, Tim Anderson rises to the top with a lot of those, immediate. Hey, who's the villain in the Royals? Tim Anderson, Josh Donaldson, Pierzynski, Maglio Ordonez. Not that I didn't like him. He just destroyed the Royals.
Jim Thome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't just start, too, with the Brad Keller incident where he bat flipped on Brad Keller, and it was actually, I think 2018, when he had bat flipped off Eric Skoglund, remember the name, and I think later in the game or something, Salvi got a double, and they had to separate the two at second base because Salvi was saying, and I don't necessarily agree with everything Salvi was saying, but along the lines of, hey, you can't act like that because you don't have a World Series. Like, your team is nowhere near competitive. You're not going to do that to our team. You're not going to do that to me. You're not going to show up the Royals. And that's where the beef kind of started. And then Tim Anderson took that as, well, now every time I play you, I am going to do that, which then led to the Brad Keller incident and Brad Keller hitting him. And then it never really went away, to be honest with you. There were still a couple of moments where things got heated. And I wonder if the Brad Keller incident doesn't happen if we talk about Tim Anderson as much as we did. Because how many times do we remember bench clearing brawls or bench clearing moments for the Royals in which it involved throwing at a player? I remember, Brett Laurie, as we said, and then Tim Anderson, of recent memory, to be honest with you. But the fall off, it does need to be studied because it went from a guy that won a batting title to losing all of his power in 1 year, losing all of his defensive ability. And I do wonder if part of it played into what the clubhouse was like in Chicago. There was the reports coming out last year that I think it was him and Grandal that got into it. The White Sox seemed very fractured toward the end of it, and there were a lot of personalities in that clubhouse that I think, when it boiled down to it, they didn't mesh that well. There might have been some guys in that clubhouse. I never went in there. I don't know any of those guys personally, but there were a lot of big egos in that clubhouse, and when things don't go well, it can lead to stuff that maybe results in you having a steep drop-off. And with Tim Anderson, I remember it specifically being the power numbers because he went from a guy that could run into, let's say, 15 to 20 and having opposite field home runs in the Field of Dreams games to walk it off to not even having one. Like, not being one of the least impactful hitters in all of baseball. And, maybe it was a mental thing. Maybe it was just one of those baseball drop-offs where, you kind of forget that that guy was so good like 2 years ago. You always think it was longer than that. But, yeah, I would love to see a studying of it because I'm not sold that he's going to get another major league job just because of how bad he was. It wasn't like he went from this guy who won a batting title to, he's hitting 250 and still runs into 10 home runs a year, okay defense. Like, we saw Nicky Lopez from his 300 year have less of a drop-off than Tim Anderson had, and about the same amount of time. So that, to me, is just the most baffling part of it is this was the face of the White Sox. He was on Sports Illustrated with, of course, Javi Baez, so now that Sports Illustrated cover is just cursed in terms of guys that dropped off the face of the earth. But he was the face of that team, and he embodied what the White Sox team was, which was a lot of flair, a lot of trash talk, a lot of confidence, and either you loved him or you hated him.
Yeah, it's surprising. Like, you talk about the power going away. He's got 50 hits this year. He's got 3 extra base hits. Out of 241 plate appearances, he's got 3 extra base hits this year, which is why ultimately you move on from him. He's batting 214 and he's slugging 226. There's no reason to have him on your team because here's the thing: if you're the Marlins, you pay him $5 million. If he has a resurgence and he goes back to, you say, the 30-year-old White Sox, it was at the end there, it got really bad. So he's going to be back to being the guy who was OPSing at worst 700, 730, an 800 OPS guy, going back to his MVP season when he OPSed almost 900. Like, all right, he might be closer to that than what he was last year because it was a bad year. We're going to give him $5 million, bring him in, and if he's really good, we're going to move him. The Royals with Aroldis Chapman. We're going to give him $3 million, bring him in, and if he's really good, we're going to flip him at the trade deadline. And they did it before that. So if you're the Marlins, you're already trading Luis Ariz. You're looking at other guys to trade. You're not going to get anything for him. What's the point? What's the point of carrying him? You just simply move on, which shows that, they give him the money because you were hoping to eventually flip him. And I don't think anybody's going to say, why would you, though? What are you getting from him right now? No defense and batting 214, and there's no power that comes along, no extra base hit, no slug, as Trey Hillman would say.
I mean, I think it's easy to say, when was the last time we saw this? I think if you actually dig a little deeper, I think it's not that uncommon. Maybe his player type is a little more rare as a guy who was a really good contact hitter. Chris Davis for the Orioles is one of the first guys that comes to mind, right? I mean, but he was not a contact guy at all. He was obviously straight power, and once the bat slows a little bit, it was kind of over for him. But I do think a name we brought up was Javi Baez.
Yeah.
I mean, Javi Baez went from I don't want to say an MVP. I mean, he was, though. He was second runner-up in 2018, All-Star in 19, Gold Glove OPS scene was at 813 in 21, and then he signed with Detroit. And, that first year, everyone goes, well, maybe that's just a bad year. And then last year. Well, in this year, he has one home run while batting 183. Like, he's 31 years old, too. So I think we're looking at, there's precedent for it. Is it rare? I think, yeah. But what Tim Anderson had happen to him is only, I think, more alarming because he was a contact guy first, where you could see guys like Javi Baez or Chris Davis fall because of how long their swing was and the power numbers in general.
What's funny, you were saying Chris Davis. When you said Chris Davis, I was thinking the Oakland A's Chris Davis.
Well, he kind of did too.
Yeah, because I was thinking of him like, he was top 10 MVP, he had almost 50 home runs back before before COVID in like 2018 or 2019, and then he just disappeared. Like batting 200.
Well, he had 4 straight years of batting 247 and almost identical numbers almost for 4 straight years where he was great, right?
Yeah, I pulled up his numbers. So 42 home runs, 43 home runs, 48 home runs, all batting 247. Then he was 220 as a 31-year-old with 23 home runs. And then he had 5 home runs the rest of his career, batted 200. The next 2 years, now he's out of baseball. 33 years old in 2021 was the last year that he played. But he went from a 30-year-old who hit 48 home runs to a 32-year-old who hit 2 and batted 200.
So 31's the age?
Apparently, yeah.
31 is the age, yeah.
But you're right, like the contact guy, like the Tim Anderson going from a guy who batted 340 and won a batting title to a guy who's batting 200. Like Chris Davis went from batting 247 to 200. All right, his power was gone. All right, that would make sense. He's not as powerful. He's not hitting the ball as hard. He's not hitting the ball as far. Therefore, those hits are not going to fall in. Now they're going to be outs, right? That makes a little more sense. But that was pretty drastic, too.
Pee Wee Reese. Pee Wee Reese had it. Went from 309, 282, turned 37, 257, 224. I'm telling you, Pee Wee Reese, there's your contact guy that fell off.
Yep. One day, Jackie, they're all going to look down and not be able to tell the difference between any of us. Warzone next. That's right, man. Yeah, I wish you could have come and joined us here at Rosedale, but I don't know that anybody told you we were going to be here. So that's on Sterling, really.
Wait, how's that my fault?
You were the one I was looking at while I was talking.
How's that my fault? I'm
Ja-
like the least to blame for anything.
Jack, who do you blame here?
Man, I think it's
Dylan.
a collective effort. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yep,
I got a
it's Dylan
phone
and
I could
Sterling.
use. I got a phone. I could have texted. I could have done that. I don't live under a rock, but it would have been a longer drive for Wichita for me if I was down having
That's
some
a good
barbecue.
point. I would have actually been serious about, hey, safe travels to Wichita or back
It
to
would
the
have been.
station. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate you, brother. We'll talk with Matt Derrick coming up next, hanging out at Rosedale Barbecue. In case
GuaranteedFoods.com.
You know what? This is the music that will play when you sit down at Rosedale, and if you get the burn-ins,
Well, because we have a speaker.
the ribs, you get the a couple of sandwiches, some beans, and you put it all in front of you, and they say, "All right, now eat." This music, here we go. Let's dig in and let's eat with this music. Get you fired up to really go to battle. Really go to battle to take down that food. Rosedale Barbecue, we are hanging out today. The 90th anniversary, 90th birthday for Rosedale Barbecue. Opened their doors July 4th, 1934, 600 Southwest Boulevard in KCK. I love the pictures here of like the original building and, the pictures of the family in front of the smoker because it's the fourth generation. The same family owning Rosedale, fourth generation. Marisha, third generation. Cole here, fourth generation of running this barbecue restaurant, and certainly one of the pillars, one of the landmarks in Kansas City when it comes to barbecue. And the story being that they started July 4th, 1934 with $183. That's what they had. What's your savings? We got $183. And let's go. So, you know what? My kid can start like 4 barbecue restaurants right now with what's in his piggy bank. If that's all it takes. I didn't realize $183 is all it takes to start a barbecue restaurant. Is that the same as today? Would it be the same thing?
I think it's about the same.
Okay, great. $183. But yeah, 4 generations later, it is still rolling. And Rosedale Barbecue, $19.34 for a slab of ribs is the sale going on today through Sunday. Doors are open right now. Tomorrow they will be open until 4 o'clock on July 4th. If you want to stop by and get some food, whether you want to just have some food for lunch or take some food to your cookout, your grill out, your party, whatever it might be. And, as Sterling said, you can lie to them and say that it was yours, that you didn't actually buy them from Rosedale, that you actually smoked the ribs yourself.
Yeah, smart move.
That's exactly right, yes. Sterling says it's smart. Some people would say it's dishonest. But
I mean, work
potato,
smarter, not harder.
Yes, that's right. Matt Derrick is our guest. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast presented by Cap One Lending. The Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending, the exclusive loan, helps you pay off your home in less than half the time and gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to caponelending.com. Matt, what's up, brother? How are you, sir? I'm going to turn your mic on.
There you
How
go.
about that? How are you now?
I am amused at the idea that Sterling could take the ribs from here and pass it off as his own work, because nobody's buying that.
That's right.
Nobody's seeing that quality of rib coming out of you, my friend.
No,
I mean, no
way.
offense.
Why not?
No offense.
I am a chef.
You're a chef, is what you are.
You're a chief.
The chefs. Great googly mogly. Have you ever? Do you have a smoker? In all seriousness, I'm just wondering.
I know this is going to make people mad. It's not a smoker. It's a pellet grill because it's Traeger.
I was going to say it was like a George Foreman grill.
I like my Traeger. It's easy enough for me. I'm not fancy enough. I know
Okay.
There's some contention in the world between the smokers and then the Traeger pellet grill combo. They're like, well, that's not a smoker. I get it, people. Don't yell at me. I understand. But I like what I have because I don't make a lot of meats. I'll make burgers and dogs and chicken.
That's the only reason why. I mean, you might be a fine smoker, but you're not compared to the fine folks here.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Nobody's
not.
going to taste those ribs and think that
nobody's
you
thinking that. No.
think that you actually made them
Well, I
yourself.
got lucky. I can get lucky. I feel like my life is very farcical. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a very farcical life I live. Jason knows about this.
That's exactly right. I'm well aware.
Sometimes random things just happen. And one of these things just randomly happened, and all of a sudden, the first time I ever cooked ribs, they came out delicious. I wouldn't be that shocked. I feel like people are like, well, he just did it. I don't know how, but
and then the next 20 tries, they were terrible.
They were horrible. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what happened. I just cannot repeat whatever success I had with that particular day. I'm not really sure what took place. Yeah, they go low and slow. I go hot and fast, and I put those ribs right on that George Foreman grill, and 10, 20 minutes later, boom, ready to go. Very chewy. Very chewy.
The inside's not cooked.
Yeah, it's called the burn end that I would call it. The burn end, just burn end of a rib. That
Okay, they brought the food out, and
Yep,
I
it's right over there.
think I'm going to.
Nope, you are part of this segment, buddy.
That's pretty amazing.
You are part of this segment.
Do you
Now
need
you know
me?
what it's
Smells
like.
amazing.
Now you know what it's like.
Must be nice.
You know
what
what?
it's like.
I'll eat on air. I'll do it.
I don't think you're going to do that.
Who wants some ASMR?
Nobody, actually. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, I see a hand raised.
See, you know what? Now you're fired. I'm sorry, man, but the intern just raised his hand, and now he's got to go. It's just that's one mistake. That's all it takes sometimes. Just one mistake. Come on, I made one mistake by opening my mouth, and I was Houdini the rest of my time as an intern. One mistake. And don't worry about the meaning of it. That's none of your business.
What's the meaning behind it, Jason? You brought it up.
There's an on-air story and there's an off-air story.
Oh,
and
I was just wondering because you brought it up, so I figured you wanted to tell it.
Oh,
That
no,
was
no. I've never told it on the air. I've told a fake story on the air. The off-air story is the truth. and it'll never be told on the air. 913-912-4810. Matt Derrick is hanging out with us. Matt, we talked yesterday a little bit. We didn't really get into it, Sterling and Dylan and I, so that was unfortunate. But on Sunday, with Sunday Sound Off, Mick Schaefer, the question was asked to us, and I thought it was an interesting response by you, Jalen, myself, the panel, and it was, with camp opening up now less than 2 weeks, 13 days from today when they report with Patrick Mahomes and the rookies reporting on the 16th, who are you most looking forward to seeing at camp? And I immediately thought of 3 names. And it just happened to be the 3 names that we came up with. You mentioned Xavier Worthy. Jalen said Hollywood Brown, because just to see him out there with Patrick Mahomes. And then my response was Kingsley, to see him in the full pads out there. Xavier Worthy, your response. Why is he number 1, and why are you not excited to see anybody else at camp? Why are you now you're not excited to see anybody. You're excited
to see some other things happen.
That's right. But Xavier Worthy was your number 1, and it sounded like number 1 with a bullet. Like, all right, no, it's Xavier Worthy.
I mean, he's a Christmas present we haven't gotten to really see yet. The only time we really saw him was at the rookie mini camp. And because at OTAs he was only a practice and a half in before he got sidelined. So in the media, we haven't seen him yet. Fans haven't seen him yet. So that to me is and we haven't seen him on the field with Patrick Mahomes. So that is a complete and total mystery at this point. At least we've seen Kingsley on the field. We've
seen Hollywood.
On the field, and Hollywood looks really good on the field, and that's why I'm excited about seeing what Xavier Worthy looks like, because I've now seen what Hollywood and Rashee Rice look like on the field together, what they look like with Patrick Mahomes on the field. I think fans are going to be pretty excited when they see what that looks like at training camp. But Worthy is an X factor. I mean, we don't want to know what it looks like. We don't know what his speed, what his comfort level, how smooth he's going to look, any of these things. So it's, like I said, it's a Christmas present you just haven't unwrapped yet.
Sterling, what's your answer?
Cam Jones.
Okay.
No. I actually am excited to see Cam Jones.
I would accept that as an answer.
I am pretty intrigued to see, because, again, that was pre-injury, but last year, was it week 18, we were all saying, who's
12
this
tackles?
guy? Right? Yeah, this guy looks like a stud. No. I've been very high on Joshua Williams. That's not going to stop now. I am just thoroughly intrigued to see what he can do given a larger sample size. Now, I wonder why he's been so good is, well, they're putting him in spots to succeed and only in spots that they know he can have success. If he gets a full sample size, maybe he gets exposed, right? Maybe he is only a guy that can play 60% of snaps. Who knows? But I'm intrigued to see if he takes the next step, because year after year after year, there's been a guy who's taken that step for the Kansas City Chiefs. Travarius Ward took that step. L'Jarius Sneed took that step. Well, Josh Williams has a lot of the same
McDuffie
qualities.
Last year took
McDuffie
that.
took that step, but I think Williams has a lot of the same qualities as Travarius, as well as L'Jarius too.
Why didn't Thacarius stick around? Bo Keys, Thacarius?
Yeah.
That would have been great, man. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm just very intrigued by him, and to a lesser extent, Leo Chenal. He's kind of in the same boat. I don't know what his role is going to be. I don't know how much more he can actually see the field, right? Because I think he's very, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but I think in the current Chiefs system, I don't see him playing any more than Willie Gay Jr. did, which was, quite frankly, not enough. There's two linebacker sets, and his style is so much different than Willie Gay.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's a game-by-game schematic, team-by-team matchup nightmare, but you're not going to use him against in my opinion, a pass-heavy team. Use him against a team like the Niners or like the Eagles.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Is there another level to Leo Chenal's game? He was one of the highest-graded run-defending linebackers last year at PFF. Is there another level to his game that he can tap into, or that's what they drafted him for? Straight ahead, you can rush the passer a little bit, but this is his role. This is what he's going to be for the next couple of years.
I mean, I think there is another level, because we saw him his rookie year. He had a very, very limited specific role, and last year they let him play a little bit more on ball, so he was playing downhill a little bit more. I think you're just going to see that, but is his work is going to be limited by the fact that Chiefs are in sub packages a lot, and they're going to take a linebacker off the field. And which one are you going to take off? I mean, he's probably the one who's going to be coming off the field, because you're going to leave Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquill out there as much as possible. If an injury happens to either one of those guys, then I think Leo's play is going to step up exponentially. I mean, I think he becomes the player that you leave on the field.
Yeah.
And, if it's Drew or Nick and the Mike, whomever it may be. So you get into some injury situations like you did a year ago. I mean, I think Leo could play quite a bit. I think they're very comfortable letting him play more. I mean, is he in that same category to me as like Josh Williams? Because Josh had coming in, the Chiefs felt like he had the highest ceiling of that other outside of McDuffie, that group of defensive backs that they took. They felt like he had the highest ceiling, maybe the lowest floor, because he was from a smaller school, a little bit less experienced than everybody else. Jalen Watson, played at a higher level, more experience, so he had maybe a higher floor, lower ceiling. Josh, I think he took some steps forward last year, but he's the kind of player that you could absolutely see taking a bigger leap in year 3. And I put Jalen Watson in that category too, because now we know that he played the entire season with an injury last year. Yeah. Basically one hand behind his back. Now to me it's like, hey, can Jalen Watson be one of those guys that takes a leap in year 3, maybe instead of year 2? I remember Tyrann Mathieu talking exactly about that, that some guys, everybody talks about the leap from year 1 to year 2. He's like, some guys don't do that. Some guys need that extra year, and it's not until year 3 that you really see them take the jump. And and I'll throw Najee Johnson in there too, because all
that was the name
that
came up yesterday was Najee Johnson, to see him.
And that to me is one of the more interesting camp battles, because we talk about training camp battles, and usually it's about a starting spot. So everybody's maybe looking at left tackle because that's a starting position that's open, and you've got a couple of guys competing there. But to me, that who is going to be your 2, 3, and 4 corner? It's up in the air. I could not tell you for sure who's going to. I could tell you right now. Just like who's in the lead and where the positioning is, but that's not means where it's going to be on August 1st or August 15th or August 27th or September 5th.
Yeah, Williams and Watson are interesting because, one, Watson's had the offseason having to rehab. Williams has been healthy, so maybe that gives him a little bit of an advantage. But also, going back to last year when they got to training camp, and there was a level of disappointment, at least from me, hearing Dave Merritt talk about Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson, and him essentially saying how disappointed he was with what he felt like wasn't a lot of work put in the offseason with Williams and Watson and where their level was. And Najee Johnson was, as Justin Reed said, in line to start. He was getting some reps with the ones, and maybe that was to challenge Williams and Watson that, hey, just because you guys played last year doesn't mean you're automatically getting this job. Look, Najee Johnson busted his ass too, and now he's ready to start. I don't know what that was the case, but whatever it was that Dave Merritt felt was subpar for their offseason between year 1 to year 2, there's an excitement level for me to see what they do coming into year 3, because you would expect that would be a challenge of, okay, you don't think I did this and this last year. All right, well, you know what? Now I'm going to make sure I do that, and I'm going to be ready to go, especially when there's an opening now. It's like, there's somebody has to start opposite Trent McDuffie. L'Jarius Sneed is gone. Somebody has to fill that role. It's different when it was, McDuffie finished his rookie year playing in the slot. They moved L'Jarius Sneed to the outside, so they flipped that. So, yeah, there's, but if they move McDuffie to the outside with L'Jarius Sneed, okay, well, now you're playing sort of a reserve role. You didn't know there was specifically one spot that was going to be wide open with McDuffie playing the slot predominantly. Even if McDuffie plays the slot predominantly, there's at least one spot that is wide open that somebody has to jump up and take. And I do wonder, like last year with Dave Merritt, in his frustration, disappointment in his words of presenting what he thought was a lack of development or work by Williams and Watson, to whatever degree that was, that's also got to be a challenge for them this year coming into camp.
Yeah, and that's why, to me, there's a lot of questions about how you're going to deploy those 3 guys, because last year you knew that, hey, L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie, your top 2 guys. Sneed's going to be traveling with the top receiver on the other team for the most part. McDuffie is probably going to be in the slot most of the time, occasionally kick outside. Maybe Chamari Connor's going to come in there. This year, it's like, okay, McDuffie's probably going to be outside most of the time. Chamari Connor's going to probably play in the slot. If you have a backup there, is that going to be Nick Jones? Or, he's kind of the specialist at this point.
Kind of sounds like that.
Or do you say, okay, when you have to have another guy in the slot, maybe McDuffie's going to kick inside, and these other 2 guys and 2 of these other 3 guys are going to come in? But what was interesting to me last year is that as the number 3 corner, Spags and Merritt really played matchup. It was who's the better fit against this offense in that particular week. And until or if one of these guys proves that they've separated themselves enough to be the clear-cut number 2 or the clear-cut number 3, I don't know why we'd expect anything different. And maybe that's how the first 4 weeks of the season will be. I mean, we've seen we've seen Spagnuolo do this before, of just testing different rotations. Sometimes they figure it out in training camp, sometimes they don't. I mean, maybe he'll still be figuring out in the early part of the season about whether one of these guys is good enough to be the every down corner, or they need to continue to play matchups. Say, okay, it's a bigger receiver, Josh Williams is the guy because he's got more length. Speedier guy, maybe Jalen Watson, he's a little bit faster. There's maybe Najee Johnson is going to prove that he's the best of the three, and he's the number 2, and the other guys are rotating in that number 3 spot. I mean, it's completely wide open, and that's even before we start even discussing the fact that there are other, I think, for lack of a better phrase, but system corners for this team. I mean, it might be that Kelvin Joseph is a perfect fit for this defense. It might be that, Keith Taylor is a perfect fit for this defense. I think, like, for instance, L'Jarius Sneed was a perfect fit for this defense. I'm not expecting L'Jarius Sneed to have as good of a season this year as he's had in the past couple of years, because I don't think he's going to be as in favorable conditions for himself. I mean,
and I can't imagine he would repeat the season he just had.
And that's no knock against him. It's just that he was a perfect fit for this defense.
And he also had an amazing year. Like, he had a career year. I don't know how, even if you repeat it, like, it's not going to be better. But even if he fell just short of it, like, I think it would be incredibly impressive. Like, that's how good L'Jarius Sneed's season was last year. That to think that he could do that again, I think is a fool's errand. I just think it's expecting too much from somebody who had an absolutely brilliant season.
And there's 6. The Chiefs are probably going to carry 6 corners, is my guess. And they've got 9 legitimate candidates.
Yeah.
So they're going to play someone on waivers at the end of training camp that is going to end up on another team, flat out.
Because Kamal Hayden, we assume, is going to be on the roster,
Probably,
right? I think we assume. Yeah. So 2 guys I'm intrigued about, and you mentioned one already, Kelvin Joseph. He was talked about during OTAs a decent amount, and I thought that was a little surprising, right? A little more of a veteran guy who's bounced around. And then Echo Boydo. I really liked Echo Boydo. I know there's some concerns about his size, his physicality. I don't think it can be questioned as far as he's going to put his nose in there. I liked him a lot. I mean, he was kind of a fun story from undrafted, then he got the invite to training camp, then played in the preseason and played well, and eventually played in a couple games down the stretch last year. I thought he looked pretty good. What are your thoughts overall on Echo Boydo?
Yeah, I mean, once again, the prototype for this defense. I mean, he's a long, lean corner for sure, but he's also got an attitude. And you saw that last year. I mean, he's not afraid of anything. For an undrafted guy like that to come in and earn the time that he was getting, because remember, he was pushing everybody else in training camp last year. I mean, he forced it. There was some talk that maybe he was going to force his way onto the 53, and he certainly did by the end of the season when some other teams were coming calling. The Chiefs had to put him on the 53 or lose him. So, I mean, that's a guy for sure. I think, if the Chiefs don't find a way to keep him on the 53, which right now I think is tough. You look at how many guys that they got covering and keeping. I mean, unless they keep something like 7 corners, crazy, but it's possible. I mean, that's a guy you got to make a tough decision on. And maybe, hey, if there's an injury in front of him, Echo Boydo, to me, automatically goes to almost a roster lock. I mean, he's right on the cusp.
And I do think there's Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson specifically. I think they can have better seasons than they did last year, but not have as good of results. And what I mean by that is, you talked about the matchup-driven aspect of those guys last year. It's going to be even more matchup-driven this year, because last year was Sneed. You put him on your best receiver, whether that guy was small, big, chunky, quick, stocky, whatever it was. Sneed, best receiver, go. McDuffie, slot. You guys over there, Watson, Williams, you're taking the secondary, second, third, whatever, wide receiver. There are going to be times where they're going to have to guard the best receiver, because if that guy's skill set doesn't match up with McDuffie's not traveling with the receiver this year, because there are guys that just don't match up specifically with him, where L'Jarius Sneed was such a unicorn that he can match up with any receiver. So if there's a bigger bodied receiver that they go up against, Williams or Watson's probably going to be the guy guarding. And they might be improved from a year ago, but they're going to have more reps against top-level receivers this year than they had last year.
Yeah, and that will be one of the questions that needs to be answered, of course, is, with if Trent is going to travel or not. I mean, we haven't seen
it. Didn't sound like it that Spags necessarily was all that in favor of him traveling. But,
yeah, I mean, and maybe that's sandbagging. You never know. They're just trying to keep us, keep us in the dark. But we should find out more at training camp. The only thing that would make me sense that they're not is that at least during OTAs they were keeping him and Josh Williams pretty left-right separate. I mean, they were each on their own side. They didn't swap over. They were each working on their own. So that would at least be an early indication that they're not thinking about that. But then again, you're just going up against your guys in practice, not really a reason to swap up. Going up against your own team.
There's also not really a receiver that wouldn't match up with Trent McDuffie.
Yeah.
I mean, McDuffie could guard Hollywood, could guard Xavier Worthy, could guard, MVS. I guess Rashee Rice maybe, just how big he is, but I think Rashee Rice doesn't have the huge body / quickness.
It's not A.J. Brown.
Yeah, or like DK Metcalf or something like that, where it wouldn't be a great matchup for Trent McDuffie. I'll put Trent McDuffie on Devontae
Smith
Smith
against A.J. Brown.
Right, but I'll put him on Devontae Smith and see what happens with that. And, but it's interesting, like if they do go like one side or the other. Like if that's how they strategize it. Richard Seymour never moved.
Right.
He stayed on, or Sherman. Richard Sherman never moved aside. He stayed on one side and got burnt by Sammy. But he would stay on one side of the defense when that Legion of Boom was going on. So it's an interesting aspect of what could happen with this group, because they've got versatility with a lot of different players, whether that be McDuffie or Williams or Watson or Connor or maybe even Nick Jones or Echo Boydo or Kamal Hadden. Like, they've got a number of different guys. Somebody has to step up, though. It's now on, and this is part of continuing a dynasty, is when somebody who is a top-level player moves on, somebody has to fill that role, or some bodies have to combine to fill that role, and it's on the individual players. The opportunity is there. Who seizes that opportunity? And to me, it doesn't matter who seizes that opportunity, because, as long as they're playing for the Chiefs. So if that is Najee Johnson looks awesome and fills that role, if it's Watson, if it's Williams, if it's Echo Boydo, if it's Hadden comes out of nowhere as a rookie, and I don't care. Whoever wins that spot is going to earn it, because they're going to be going up against other guys that are going to be pushing them, because there's a huge opportunity for that guy to go and establish themselves as a starter on a Super Bowl caliber team.
And this, is just another reminder to me about why I don't think that Brett Veach probably gets enough credit league-wide for how well he has managed this roster and how well he's drafted the last few years, because I think when people are evaluating the best GMs in the league and everything, they just look at the one-year results. They don't look at the long-term trend. They don't look at the long-term goals and see that, hey, we, kind of understood to a little bit of a degree about why the Chiefs invested in their secondary so much in that 2022 draft. But Brett Veach invested in that draft because he knew, hey, I'm going to have to replace L'Jarius Sneed. He knows in 2022 whether he's going to be able to keep L'Jarius Sneed in 2024. So he drafted with the need of, like, hey, wait a minute, I need to start bulking up here because I need to have some competition and some guys that are going to be ready to take over for that spot, knowing that he's probably not going to keep Sneed. And now look at what they've got. They've got an embarrassment of riches to a degree. Because, hey, is this group, are some of these corners, are they what you would call shutdown corners? Maybe not. But once again, you trust Dave Merritt to coach them up. You trust Steve Spagnuolo. Steve Spagnuolo is an absolutely underrated defensive backs coach. And when you see him on the field, you see him looking with Brian Cook and Shamari Connor. He loves coaching those guys.
Jaden Hicks, during
he loves
OTAs.
coaching those guys, exactly. So, that's one of the Chiefs' advantages is that, they can kind of invest in young guys in that position, trust their coaching staff to develop them. But that's why the Chiefs aren't, you're not looking at this Chiefs defense and thinking they're going to fall apart without L'Jarius Sneed, because they look like they're okay. They've got a lot of guys that can play.
Matt Derrick is our guest. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. He's presented by Cap One Lending. We will take a timeout. We'll come back. We are hanging out at Rosedale Barbecue, 600 Southwest Boulevard. KCK is where our location is today. 90th anniversary. They opened up their doors July 4th, 1934, and they're selling $19.34 slabs of ribs today through Sunday. They will be open until 4 o'clock tomorrow on July 4th. It's Rosedale Barbecue, our location today. We continue with more Zone, talking with Matt Derrick next. Folks, if you are going to be heading to a game or a concert, a tailgate, a pre-party, a July 4th party, whatever it is, odds are you probably know if you are going to be drinking. You know that probably. Golick was on the sideline as well, so I think those were the 4 main ones. And then whoever they use for their referee, analyst.
And as you guys probably may or may not remember, I have great fond memories of Super Bowl 58, except for one.
Except for Super Bowl 1 or one?
Except for one moment in Super Bowl 58.
The pass to McCole Hardman.
No.
Did you fall?
No, it was who I had to sit next to.
Jason?
No.
I wasn't there.
No.
Nope.
I had.
Do you want to go on the air with that?
Oh, I do it all the time. So my criticism is quite well known. So.
Sure, go ahead. Remind people.
I was sitting next to the blogger who just puts out stuff and says that if it's wrong, that somebody will tell him. So, and contemplates which Chiefs personnel are retiring at any given week. Like 28-year-old quarterbacks.
I'm still not picking up what you're putting down.
I was trying to remember
I'll
the
figure it out.
post-game show from that one to remember if he had mentioned it, but now I kind of remember a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys aren't friends, is what you're saying.
They became fast friends, actually. Matt is now his source.
Matt Derek's face
think
is
the voices
twitching
in his head
so
are
hard.
sources.
When I said Matt Derek, you guys are friends with that guy, his face was just twitching like, how dare
Mike actually reached out and was like, Matt, is there anything going on with the Chiefs that I should be talking about and not know about? And Matt was like, look, we got to start talking about when Patrick Mahomes is going to retire. I mean, we got to start this conversation right now. I mean, those questions are going to come up.
I mean, as I said later that day after that story came out, that I think a more legitimate question to ask Patrick if he wants to play long enough to wait for the Chiefs to draft one of his kids.
I'm with you. Does he want to do that?
He's
pull
28
a
years
Bronny.
old.
Yeah.
He's 28. Tim
Yeah.
Anderson was still having great seasons at that age. I mean, like, this is silly.
He wouldn't pull a Bronny. It'd be a Bronzy.
A Bronzy. Oh, Bronzy. There you go. I mean,
Let's see how many. You know what? Here's the thing. Let's see how many Chiefs fans that are making fun of the Lakers for LeBron drafting Bronny, if they would do the same thing if Patrick Mahomes got Bronzy drafted to the Chiefs. I bet there would be a flip. Oh, what a cool story. That's a really cool story.
If his kid's good.
Bronny's good. He's just not good enough to get drafted. Giannis's brother ain't good enough to be in the NBA, but he's got a spot on that roster.
hey, I mean, and Tom Brady played till 45. I mean,
He did.
Mahomes can make it to 48, right?
I think he can. 20 more years. 20 more years for Patrick Mahomes. I think it'd be just fine. Rank these in preference of extension if it happens before training camp.
Before training camp.
Before training camp. So it's
Okay.
13 days if they sign one of
13
these guys
days.
to an extension. Or maybe even this year. We don't have to make it before training camp. It's just, there's nothing going on right
At
now.
this point, I'm going to say 0%.
Yes.
Not quite 0.
But not like a chance of it happening. Preference of who
Preference.
of it happening.
Preference. Okay.
This is not the order for me. This is in no particular order. You know what? I'm going to do it on alphabetical order.
Okay.
Bolton, Creed, Trey Smith. That's alphabetical order. So that is not my that's but your preference of who gets the long-term extension out of those three.
I was going alphabetical order based on last name, first name,
First and last.
first name.
Yep, that's exactly right.
It's a wild.
BCTS.
Just wanted to make sure.
Well,
BCTS.
in fairness to him,
I was going to say
you call
Humphrey,
him-
but nobody calls him Humphrey. It's Creed.
That's my
It's
point.
the only reason.
And you don't call him really Nick. You call him Bolton. You call him Creed.
Yeah.
You call him Bolton. And Trey Smith
Is Trey Smith.
Is Trey Smith.
It's always Trey Smith.
Smith.
Nobody says Trey for Trey Smith or Smith. It's always Trey Smith. Creed, Bolton, Trey Smith.
I wanted to rip on you for that, and then I realized I do the same thing. So I go, I can't, and then I'm making fun of myself.
Do you have a preference ranking of like if they can only sign one, or if they sign two, or whatever?
I'm having a flashback because when I was growing up, of course, like 1 out of every 5 kids was named Matt. So I, for whatever reason, just became Matt Derrick. So I mean, people just call me that, like
I don't think I've ever just called you Matt.
Thing,
like
like
when
Matt
I
Derrick,
see you out, I'm like, hey, what's up, Matt Derrick?
I've called you Derek more than I've called you Matt.
Really?
Yeah, and that drives me crazy. Nothing personal.
Yeah, but
Is
two
it
first
actually
names.
nothing personal?
Two first names. You
But
can't really
see,
call the person by their last name when they got two first names.
I know a lot of the times, your case, not. I know
Oh,
it's not
now,
in your case.
now I feel bad.
Not in your
should.
case. I don't like to be called Derek because in the past, 99% of the times when people have called me Derek, it's because they've forgotten my first name. And so then I feel, I mean, I don't want to be a diva here. I feel a little disrespected.
I call you Matt because I don't know your last
See,
name.
so
What's your middle name?
Shane. See.
Shane
What's up,
Derrick.
Shane?
Shane Derrick is with us.
And well, Shane Matthews is my nom de plume. That's my alias. So
I love that, by the way.
there
I
are
love
some
that he's
people.
got
There are people in this town. That was also my disc jockey name. I was going to go with. I don't know if I actually ever used it on the air at KTXR 101.3.
I feel like you're stalling, by the way, right now.
I'm not. Oh, I'm not stalling. I was just. I'm on a 4th of July detour as my
I like 4th of July
as
detours,
my
man.
41 is the Mike partner Nick Jacobs would say. I'm taking the scenic route.
I love the scenic route. You know what? Harlan takes the scenic route
And
all
where
the
I was
time.
even starting with this was one of my high school classmates, Brenna Kenyon. One day was like, she called me Matt Derrick, and she goes like, "Why do we call you Matt Derrick? It's like we're calling you Senator Matt Derrick, you know." But my preference, and my preference is based a little bit on realism and cost, and just how. I mean, not a dream scenario. I don't have a magic wand.
Yeah.
But if I'm Brett Veach, I think it's Creed, Nick, and then Trey Smith, because Creed, you could sign to the richest contract for a center in NFL history, and he's still going to be affordable. He's going to be less than Trey Smith is going to be.
Yeah.
Based on the position. And like I said, you can make him the highest paid center, I mean, outside of Jason Kelsey. You could match Jason Kelsey's salary. You can pay him $15 million a year. And he's still going to be a bargain. So that would be just give Trey whatever it takes to get it done. Nick, I mean, obviously said the other day that looks like, based on his words, that he wants to see what happens after the season, isn't going to, maybe be signing anything right now, wants to play it out and see what happens at the end of the year. I think for him, obviously coming off the injuries last year, that would be the wise course of action, because if he goes out and has a great year this year, plays a full season, Chiefs win another Super Bowl, he even gets a Pro Bowl possibility, then his cost is going to go up. But even then, I mean, once again, he's going to be more affordable than Trey Smith. I mean, it's close because, once again, you've signed Drew Tranquil, so you've got a Mike linebacker insurance for the future if you can't sign and keep Nick Bolton. But, I mean, wouldn't you want to go with the younger guy? And wouldn't you want to go with the guy who's been a pretty good leader for you? I mean, I get there's a cost that you don't want to pay too much for Nick Bolton. You can't make Creed Humphrey the highest paid center in the league and make Nick Bolton one of the highest paid linebackers in the league. I mean,
and Chris Jones, the highest paid defensive tackle.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be
so on and so on. Yeah,
there's got to be some realism there. I've accepted the sadness because Trey Smith is just like one of the greatest guys I've covered. He's
awesome.
Absolutely wonderful person to have in that locker room. He's a wonderful person to have in Kansas City.
Yep.
I do not see the economics of how the Chiefs can keep him, and particularly when you think that of those three, he has been the lowest paid because he was the 6th round pick.
Sure.
So even this year, I mean, his base salary is under $1 million. I mean, Trey Smith is an absolute incredible bargain. He deserves to get paid, and he deserves to get paid a ton. And I don't see how the Chiefs can do it. But I will then throw in that, we're talking about the big three a lot. There's 2 more Chiefs free agents next year. And Harrison Butker and Justin Reed, who are also going to be free agents after the season. And I think
McDuffie's going to be opened up for an extension at that point.
And Karlaftis will be too.
And Karlaftis, yep, that's true.
So, I mean, you've got to look seriously hard at both those guys because I think you need to keep Harrison Butker for sure.
So I have a question in regards to what you think Nick Bolton might get, because the linebacker market is not as robust as I think some people think.
Right.
There's a couple at the top and then a steep drop-off. Roquan Smith, 20 mil AAV. Fred Warner, 19 mil AAV. I think those are clear-cut the top 2, right? It's those 2 are the two best linebackers by far, right? Number 3, Tremaine Edmonds, very good, 18 mil, steep drop-off. Matt Milano, 14 mil AAV. Then Patrick Queen, 13.66, repeating, of course, AAV. And what's also interesting with linebacker contracts, not a lot guaranteed. Like some of the numbers, like even like Roquan Smith, $100 million contract, only 60 mil guaranteed. What would a Nick Bolton contract look like in your eyes that's fair for both parties, a realistic deal that you think could get done here?
Well, I mean, and that's the tough thing because if you're Nick Bolton and his agent, I mean, you're going to shoot for the moon.
Yeah, do you want Roquan Smith?
You're gonna be using him and Fred Warner. I mean, you're going to use those as your contracts. I mean, I don't think that you can make a case, as much as I love Nick, I can't make the case that he's on the level of those guys.
Well, is Patrick Queen more of a relatable guy? And same draft, if not mistaken, correct? Wasn't it Patrick Queen and Nick Bolton?
He got 3 for 41.
He got 3 for 41 with just over $20 million guaranteed. Is that in line what you think he's going to get overall, or?
I mean, I think it is so tough. I mean,
and then he's the 5th highest paid linebacker, by the way.
Right.
Is Patrick Queen with that?
Yeah. I mean, I still think that just based on accomplishments and based on resume, that's that's the high end for Nick Bolton. I mean, I think that's. I mean, and that's one of those things. I mean, you know, if you hit the open market, and that's the thing. If Nick Bolton gets to March 15th, I can't remember the exact day, but if he gets to the new league year next year as a free agent, it's the same situation that it would have been with Chris Jones this year. You know, he's going to get an offer that's going to be better than anything the Chiefs can offer. The Chiefs just have to, you know, try and get it done because the moment that Nick Bolton can get an offer from another team, it's going to be better than what the Chiefs are offering. I mean, that's just the reality of free agency. Teams overpay. So you can't let them get to that point. But, I mean, if I'm the Chiefs, I'm trying to think who's a good example here. I mean, gosh. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, honestly, gosh. It gets really weird because you look at and the AAVs are just terrible for some of these deals. I mean, because they're backloaded and kind of inflate the number a little bit because, I mean, good grief. I mean, Drew Tranquil's deal is not that expensive, but
he's top 20. It looks like
he's top 20. Yeah, I mean, you know, and that, you know, you have to factor out a little bit of pass rushers and outside linebackers are in there. I mean, if you're strictly looking at inside guys,
I'm looking at just inside guys right here.
I mean.
Yeah, then you're looking at Roquan Smith. That's when you're looking at Fred Warner. That's when you're looking at Patrick Queen.
I mean, if you're talking about making Nick Bolton one of the top 10 highest paid guys, I mean, it's, you know, good grief. Kyle Van Noy averages $4.5 million salary. I mean,
you're looking at it again. This is why I have such a hard time with Nick Bolton.
So
what's he's going to get in the open market, because it really is Roquan, Fred Warner, Draymond Edmonds at the top, and you're like, okay, I understand.
After that,
and then it's just nonsense, and then after that, it's all very affordable. I mean, Patrick Queen, 13.6. He's 24 when he signed that deal. He was a second-team All-Pro last year, coming into his own, and that's what that got. So that's I just wonder where Nick Bolton, two-time Super Bowl champion, yet to be a Pro Bowler or All-Pro. I wonder how that affects his stock.
And Trey Smith, like the Lindstrom but the Robert Hunt deal, like it was good news, bad news. Like great news for him because he's going to get paid. Bad news is he's priced out of Kansas City more than likely. And so it's like, you know, if he wants to take a sweetheart deal, a hometown discount to stay in Kansas City, that would be great. But the price of guards went up the last couple of off seasons, and Landon Dickerson, you know, is getting $21 million per year. You know, Robert Hunt got $63 million guaranteed, $20 million per year. Like this is now it's the price of doing business. You know, the Joe Tooney contract is to sign another guard. If Trey Smith was on the open market, he would get better than the Joe Tooney contract, I believe, or at least the Joe Tooney contract.
And here's the other quirky thing about it, like Sterling is pointing out, is that you've got those three contracts. You've got Roquan Smith at $60 million guaranteed, Trey Edmonds $50 million, Fred Warner $40.5, and then go down to Patrick Queen at $13.8.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the problem. Is that, and this was a little bit about the Chris Jones problem too, because, you know, when the first time around that the Chiefs were trying to get the deal done, the long-term deal done with Chris Jones, it was like, okay, here's Aaron Donald at $31.7 million a year, and then the next pay-as-high defensive tackle is like 21.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, Chris Jones's value was somewhere between 21 and $31 million. How do you figure that out?
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
you give him more.
You give him $28 million. He's still the second highest paid defensive tackle, and he's saying, wait a minute, I'm just as good as Aaron Donald is, and you're shortchanging me 10%. I mean, that's why it's going to be so hard with Nick Bolton, because I think if you're Nick Bolton and you're his agent, you're saying, hey, he needs to be at that.
Draymond Edmonds, I think, is where I think you're Edmonds, the 18 mil.
Yeah.
And I think if you're the Chiefs, you say, well, Patrick Queen got 13.6, and he was All-Pro. That's going to be the difficulty. But I will say for Trey Smith, yet to be a Pro Bowler, yet to be All-Pro. Rob Hunt, neither of those things either. Rob Hunt, never All-Pro, never Pro Bowl. So
he was just the best guard available. And they went and paid him that money.
I mean, here's the question to me then, is that if I told you that Nick Bolton would sign for the Patrick Queen number, would you sign him?
Yes.
I mean, I think I would too. It's a big number, but I think you could get away with it. The only thing that
it's almost MVS numbers. I mean, seriously, you're talking, and the guaranteed for linebackers are just not the same as other positions. So if you saw Anthony Hitchens was the unfortunate one where I think the guarantees were such because they needed a linebacker, they had to get someone. The guarantees for linebackers are such that typically they're constructed to where if it's a 4-year deal, really only 2 years are guaranteed.
Yeah. It's true.
So I'd say yes.
Yeah, Patrick Queen's contract is
About 60% guaranteed.
well, I mean,
I think you paid your middle linebacker and Drew Tranquil, right? With that kind of money? No? Am I wrong?
Well, and that's the question. I mean, because if you do sign Nick Bolton to that number, then you're basically got a couple of years where you're committing maybe close to $20 million of salary cap to those two linebackers.
The way that the Steelers constructed it with Patrick Queen was it's a $6 million cap hit this year, and then they can get out after only 1 year because it's a $17.7 million cap hit next year, but a $7.7 million dead cap hit. So they would save $10 million against the cap. Year after that, they would save $14 million and only take a $3 million dead cap hit. So it's a 2-year deal with the potential, or at least the opportunity, the door being open for it to be a 1-year deal if it's a disaster and he sucks. And then they say, we'll just take our $7.7 million dead cap hit and move on, save $10 million, put it somewhere else. You don't imagine a 25-year-old is going to suck, this year from what he's been the last couple of years. But they've even with that contract as a free agent, they constructed it in a way that after 1 year they've got an out, and it's not some crazy like where you're going to have to take a $20 million dead cap hit. No, they got an out. Save $10 million if they want to. So,
and I don't want to
take
say
a timeout.
We'll
come back. Go ahead, Dylan.
I don't want to say that Patrick Queen sucks necessarily, but they did trade for Roquan Smith and let him walk out the door to a division rival. So he's not exactly someone that they felt like they couldn't lose, or needed to sign, or were really happy with in the first place. So maybe they want the out in there because the Steelers don't know what this guy looks like as the number 1 Mike linebacker.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Good call.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling, hanging out at Rosedale Barbecue. More Zone right after this. KCK, and it is the 90th anniversary. Tomorrow, July 4th, 1934, is when they open the doors to this fine establishment, and have been rolling ever since with some of the best barbecue in Kansas City, in the area, in the country, in the world. You know what? In the universe. I don't know if there's, great barbecue on a different planet. I'm not sure. I know this. It's certainly on this planet. And it's a great spot to be in. And they are offering $19.34 slab of ribs in honor of the founding year of 1934. That goes on today through Sunday. Tomorrow they're open until 4 o'clock on July 4th holiday. As they open their doors on July 4th. So why wouldn't they be open on July 4th to help serve some barbecue and get you guys set up for a lunch, maybe a dinner? You take it home, go out to your cookout, your friends, whatever party you're going to tomorrow, and have a little Rosedale barbecue taken with you. Established in 1934, now on the fourth generation of family that is here still in charge at Rosedale. So really awesome stuff. That family atmosphere, same recipes, same styles, same smoke, all of it for 90 years. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and we're going to have the same conversation with the same guy, but different conversation. You know what I mean, Matt Dare.
food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We're hanging out 2 more hours to go at Rosedale Barbecue. Heading up until 2 o'clock. The program takes over at 2, and we will take over some more food at 2 o'clock probably and just sit down and enjoy some more food, some more, I don't know, lunch, second lunch, right? What is it, fourth meal? Second dinner? Why can't it be second lunch? Coming up at 2 o'clock when we are done, but they are open today, open tomorrow until 4 o'clock, and this weekend as well. It is the 90th anniversary of Rosedale opening up their doors July 4th, 1934, and they are offering slabs of ribs, $19.34 in honor of the founding year. That goes until Sunday, serving approximately 400 pounds of meat per day.
That does not include ribs. That's just sliced meat.
Thank you. That's exactly right. That is exactly right. No ribs included. 400 pounds a day. Every day. Every day. And fourth generation family running this thing. Marisha has been awesome. She's been great. Boss lady. And Cole hanging out with us here. That's
I want
been
that,
awesome.
by the way. I would love
You
her.
like the boss lady shirt?
The boss lady. Yeah, that shirt's phenomenal.
You want the shirt that says boss lady?
Well, I would wear it if it's a boss lady. But I would get it embossed with maybe like...
Embossed?
Embossed. Yeah, that's what I'd say. Just say embossed.
It would just say embossed lady.
Embossed.
Embossed lady.
Well, I don't need the lady part. Maybe it's lady like Styx. Like the song by Styx, right? That works. It's a very cool shirt, is what I'm saying, though.
Man.
It's a very cool shirt.
Man, I got right there, and the filter shut it off. Right there.
Where'd you get to?
I'll tell you in the break.
I did mark it.
Filter
So
stepped right in. Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
It was marked,
but
yes.
for me, I was going to offer in a little nudge, but decided filter
Oh, I
stepped
know.
in, which is perfectly fine. Matt Derrick is our guest from Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mike podcast. He's presented by Cap One Lending. Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending. The exclusive loan helps you pay your home off in less than half the time, gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to caponelending.com. All right, Matt. 41 is the Mike podcast. And in the first hour, I wanted to spend the second segment of the previous hour talking about this podcast that you and Nick Jacobs have, the latest episode, and instead we spent it talking about barbecue, which was perfectly fine. Okay, that's perfectly
Yes.
fine. But
Nick and I spent a good chunk of our live Q&A last week talking about barbecue.
that's perfectly fine too. There's ain't nothing wrong with that. But this podcast you guys did, I love the premise of, so you guys went chronological order in how the dynasty was sort of built. How we're at this point, the decisions that were made, and I loved you including not making a couple of those decisions that weren't made, because that matters. It matters, unanswered prayers sometimes matter. But I loved that premise, and so going in chronological order, it's easy to look at it and go, Patrick Mahomes. Drafting Mahomes in 2017 is obviously as big as it gets.
Worked out pretty well.
As big as it gets. But what stood out to me the whole thing, and it was right at the beginning, and so it really got me thinking, was you guys went back to the hiring of Mark Donovan. And I thought that was a really interesting strings to connect from Donovan to where we are now, and how sort of the dominoes sort of fell after that. Explain why, you guys started with the, talking about where we are now as to why it went to the business side of the Chiefs in Mark Donovan, and not starting with, the people on the sports side or the football playing side are the ones that have a big part in this.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two pieces of it for sure. I mean, one is that, when Mark Donovan comes in 2009, Mark comes from Philadelphia, so he's got the Philadelphia DNA in him. And let's face it, there for 3 years, the business side was the only thing that was working.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mark brought some professionalism and organization to that maybe they hadn't had in a while. They were having some success. I mean, they actually were getting some season tickets back to going. I mean, they were getting promotions going. Brought in, new people. They really kind of beefed up 65 toss power trap at that point. I mean, they were doing a lot of things outside of the football part that were improving the business. And so I think that, one, had to have an effect on Clark Hunt to see, hey, wait a minute, you know what, there's good stuff happening in Philadelphia. And then, two, to have Mark Donovan, have him have the ear of Clark Hunt to be able to say, Andy Reid's a good coach. I mean, Andy Reid
And would be interested.
Andy Reid would be perfect for this organization. I mean, I have no doubt that those conversations took place. I have no doubt that Mark Donovan was an important voice, and maybe it would have happened anyway. But I don't think that there's a disconnect there. I mean, I think there was absolutely a point A to point B. There's some continuity in the DNA of Mark Donovan and Andy Reid together, because I mean, I think Clark got at least a sense of how Philadelphia operated from Mark, saw in action that it works and is successful, and then obviously met Andy and saw that it all matched up, made it a no-brainer.
And there's so much more in the podcast that you and Nick get into. But if somebody would have said, okay, go in chronological order from the beginning of how this dynasty was built, it would have been early January 2013. That's where I would have started.
Sure.
Clark Hunt hires Andy Reid. They hire Andy Reid. Later that month, they trade for Alex Smith, and a few months later, they draft Travis Kelce. So in a matter from January to April of 2013, from getting the number one, and Eric Fisher, I should point out Eric Fisher drafted too. He was a good left tackle for the Chiefs. He was perennially underrated and underappreciated in Kansas City.
Sure.
And we've seen since he went down with injury, they've still been trying to find somebody to play as consistently and as high as Eric Fisher did at the left side. So drafting Eric Fisher and Travis Kelce a few months after trading for Alex Smith and going and courting and then signing and getting him to agree to be your coach in Andy Reid, that's where I think would have been the obvious place to start. But the Mark Donovan one stood out to me because I didn't really put much of a connection with, that Mark Donovan side of it from the business side, and Philadelphia could also play a role in attracting Andy Reid to Kansas City to be the head coach of a team that had the number one pick, as opposed to going to Arizona that wasn't in the position of rebuild that the Chiefs were currently in the number one pick. And not only number one pick in a year that didn't have an obvious quarterback to go number one. Number one in a year that didn't have, Caleb Williams is going to be there, or Andrew Luck is going to be there, et cetera, right? This number one pick is there. It was Geno, right? I mean,
universally, that 2013 draft is just considered one of the weakest first rounds.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, so it's like you got the number one pick, and here you go. It's the number one pick in the wrong year.
But you got a guy that gave you serviceable years and was integral to a Super Bowl team.
And you got a guy in the third round that is the GOAT at his position and has been integral in 3 Super Bowls and going to 4 and playing in 6 straight AFC Championship games, and has played a huge part in the guy you drafted in 2017, which is a number of different decisions down the road. But that start with Mark Donovan I found to be fascinating because – look, anytime you're talking about a Super Bowl champion, there are so many different decisions and forks in the road that are made. Not every one is going to be right, but a lot of them are going to be right to get to that finish line of winning a Super Bowl. And going back to whether it's 2009 or early January 2013 when Clark Hunt was like, no, I'm not going to let you go to Arizona. You're not going to Arizona. You're going to be the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm going to make sure we get this done right here, right now. And then from Andy Reid then going, well, I need a veteran, I need a leader, I need somebody that can help stabilize this team. Let's go get Alex Smith. We'll give up a couple second rounders for Alex Smith. And then that Travis Kelce draft pick was he wasn't a first round pick, right? He wasn't like the number 10 pick in the draft. He wasn't Brock Bauer, right? It was like, well, this guy's a can't miss guy, right? He was a third rounder, a guy that had already been kicked off his team in college.
What I think is, and you brought this up briefly there, you hit more than you miss. And I know it's such a simple concept, especially when you have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones. It makes life obviously a lot easier on you. But even that 2013 draft, right? They went Eric Fisher. Mm-hmm. They could have gone Luke Jokel, Deion Jordan.
Right.
You guys remember Deion Jordan went third?
Not many people remember him.
DJ Fluker.
A lot of people thought Jokel was better than Fisher.
Right. That was the discussion.
And I always go back to the same thing with McCole Hardman. They didn't get DK Metcalf, but they didn't get
Paris Campbell.
They didn't get the guy from Arizona,
Isabella.
Andy Isabella.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one thing the Chiefs have done so well is they will find guys who can at least make an impact that aren't total negatives. Now, Sky Moore might be there, and obviously you're going to have some with Breeland Speaks, and if you want to say Clyde being in the first round, fine, but he got at least a second contract here in Kansas City. Like, they don't typically get net negatives or zeros out of guys, especially early on. Have they had some that they would like back? Well, of course, every single team would, but they find ways to get way more hits than misses. And if you look around the NFL, you look around and bring up the names. No one brings out the names that are misses. No one does, right? But the Chiefs haven't had as many of those as I think the majority of the NFL has had, even especially later on in rounds. How many late-round guys have the Chiefs turned into actual starters compared to special teamer at best?
Yeah, and I think that goes back a little bit, obviously, to the approaches that both their general managers during this stretch have taken. I mean, Nick talked about, I think on Sunday, that, John Dorsey drafted on traits a lot. I mean, it was all about athleticism.
Which is why he was able to mock draft Travis Kelce to the Chiefs.
Yeah,
before the 2013 draft, Nick Jacobs had Eric Fisher and Travis Kelce going to the Chiefs.
Exactly. And you think about that. And the Chiefs made some free agent moves. I mean, they signed like Mike DeVito, who was a pretty important sign that year. I'm trying to think about who was the other one. They had Hussein Abdullah. That was a pretty good addition in the early years. I mean, Chase Daniel, there were some of those. But you think about that. But four of their biggest moves that they make once that they hire Andy Reid, they hire Andy Reid, they trade for Alex Smith, they draft Eric Fisher, they draft Travis Kelce. I mean,
all that before May.
I mean, with your first two picks, and basically your first three picks. I mean, the draft were Eric Fisher, Alex Smith, and Travis Kelce. That's a heck of a draft right there.
Yep.
So hey, Dorsey drafted on traits and athleticism, which to Sterling's point means that hey, if you've got athleticism, hopefully you can coach that into something. And the Chiefs have obviously had a good coaching staff, so they've been able to coach these guys and some of them into what they need. I mean, obviously, I think they did some great job on observing talent and figuring it out. Now, it meant that sometimes it didn't work out. I mean,
D'Anthony Thomas.
Well, and there's cases like that, and then there's cases like Marcus Peters, where you drafted purely on the athleticism and the football talent, but maybe ignored some of the flags. And then Brett Veach comes in, and I think Brett's evolved. I mean, because his first couple of drafts were heavy on leadership. It was, we're drafting team captains and good guys and all this kind of stuff. And when you do that, you're drafting high IQ football players, and that's kind of what they were doing. But they were able to get things out of them, a lot of special teams performers. And since then, I think he's evolved, and I think that now he's doing a pretty good blend of looking for athleticism and leadership.
And some things needed to not go their way from what they hoped would have happened. They needed Cornell to not be good. They didn't hire Cornell to get the number one pick in the draft. They hired Romeo Cornell to be a good coach, to take this team with the players loved. They didn't hire him let's hire him for 1 year, and then we'll see what coaches are available next year.
And if Romeo Cornell goes 9-7, do they hire Andy Reid? Probably not. I mean, maybe they give Romeo another year, especially the way that year went. I mean, if he'd taken that team to 9-7, he probably should have been NFL Coach of the Year.
And we've seen what can happen in the difference of an entire organization or program if you give a guy 1 more year and you pass up on a couple of coaches. And I'm not really mentioning giving Frank Haith 1 more year by Mike Alden and not hiring Kelvin Sampson or Bruce at Auburn. Bruce Pearl. Not hiring either Kelvin Sampson or Bruce Pearl that offseason because you wanted to give Frank Haith another year, and then 3 weeks later Frank Haith takes the Tulsa job. I'm not saying it specifically to that, but, Romeo Cornell, you give him 1 more year, and Andy Reid's an Arizona Cardinal head coach. So And by the way, Brett Veach is an Arizona Cardinal scout because not only hiring Andy Reid, but Andy Reid had to keep and bring Brett Veach with him.
Yep.
Like, if we're talking about the best GM in the NFL, like John Dorsey was a big part of this, but Brett Veach was a scout with the Eagles, and I don't want to, downplay what scouts do, but he wasn't like a pro player personnel assistant with the Eagles front office, and it's like, all right, I like this guy. He was a scout. And then Andy Reid hired him as a pro player, analyst personnel with the Chiefs. So he saw in Brett Veach somebody that was a scout, but he's going to give him a raise. He's going to give him a promotion to go to the Chiefs with him from the Eagles. You've got to recognize that as well.
Brett Veach had the best job in the NFL, which is if you can be the personal assistant to Andy Reid, because that is an upwardly mobile position. I mean, Sean McDermott had that job. Yep, Brett Veach has had that job.
Yep. For as much as Nick Sirianni still talks about not being retained by Andy Reid and still holds his grudge against the Chiefs because Andy Reid didn't bring him in, that's fine. But he brought Brett Veach with him.
And you can also see why after looking at Nick Sirianni and how he acts. You can probably see a little bit of why Andy was, I think you're okay not bringing and retaining Sirianni.
But again, if he doesn't bring Brett Veach, then, where's the organization at? I mean, they have 3 Super Bowls?
And there's even little things that Andy Reid and John Dorsey, I'll give credit to Dorsey too on this, did. They knew talent. I mean, it would have been very easy for a new regime to come into Kansas City and say, we're cleaning house. Everybody's gone. We're going to replace you all with our own people. They kept the scouts who were good. I mean, Willie Davis is a good scout. He's been around forever. Brant Tillis and Mike Borgonzi.
That's a great point.
Were Pioli hires.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And they kept them because they were smart, good guys.
Yep.
And, I mean, both those – I mean, Brant Tillis might have a better job than the GM job right now. I mean, he reports to the owner without having to sweat the roster like GM is. And Mike Borgonzi, if he is not a GM soon, the NFL will just fall asleep at the switch.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, that would have been very easy to just clean house. But, no, they kept the guys who were good at their jobs, and that's a sign of intelligence to me.
I think one of the things that sometimes gets overlooked, and you brought it up with a couple of them. You were going with you brought up a quarterback that wasn't drafted by the Chiefs, and when you mentioned that, I thought you were going to Paxton Lynch. I thought that was because that's what I go back to is at least reports were out there that the Chiefs were very much interested in Paxton Lynch, that they liked him, and the Broncos traded ahead of the Chiefs to get Paxton Lynch. So the Chiefs traded back to take Chris Jones. So you could have ended up with Paxton Lynch or Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones. I feel like they got the better end of that deal.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was so much of an interest in Johnny Manziel. Whether they would have drafted him or not, I didn't realize at the time because there was so much of a connection with Cleveland, and whether somebody was on the corner of a street light looking for money and telling the owner how much they love Johnny Manziel. There was that connection with the Browns, and so it was news to me, and maybe it was at the time it was out there, and I just didn't give it much thought, but. There was a real chance the Chiefs were taking Johnny Football if he was there?
I mean, it was very similar in that aspect to I think the Patrick Mahomes pursuit. And the Johnny Manziel interest probably informed how they handled Patrick Mahomes even more because obviously, I mean, Chiefs covered their tracks on Patrick Mahomes as best they possibly could. Mm-hmm. I mean, they tried to sell it that they were looking anywhere else but Patrick Mahomes. No one, for the most part, thought. I mean, even you watch the draft coverage that night and everything, and it's like Patrick Mahomes' name wasn't coming up, and they made the move the 10th.
Yep.
It was like, oh, they're coming.
Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson. Here it comes. But I mean, I have been told too many times by too many people who know that John Dorsey was in love with Johnny Manziel, and absolutely would have taken him. And Cleveland took him one spot in front of him.
That's two different quarterbacks that somebody traded ahead of the Chiefs to get somebody that may or may not have actually taken at that spot.
And who knows? I mean, maybe things work out differently. When they're under Andy Reid for Johnny Manziel. I don't know. And then, I mean, I think we.
But 3 years later, are they taking Patrick Mahomes in 2017 if Johnny Manziel, is just okay? Do they? They two drafts, and then all of a sudden you're back in the market for another quarterback.
And I believe they were probably interested in Paxton Lynch too. I mean, that was legitimate. And then I mean, I know Nick mentioned it on the podcast. That I mean, I tell you what, I could write a whole. I'm working on a project like that. We'll see if it ever comes to light of day. The 2016 draft and how that unfolded for the Chiefs is just absolutely crazy. And the fact that because I remember that night that John Dorsey being asked about the draft, and I've just seen before and since all these GMs who were just oh well, there's a lot of good players out there and everything like this, and John Dorsey was asked about at the end of the first round about players that were still available out there, and he just instantly goes Miles Jack's out there, man. And it was just so bizarre that
the Chiefs had the 37th pick.
That he's talking about Miles Jack.
Yeah.
And then, I talked to Chris Jones about this a couple of years ago, and Chris tells me that there were two teams that he thought showed more interest in the Chiefs. One was the Arizona Cardinals, and one was the Jacksonville Jaguars. And that he flat out had, the guy who was his liaison with Jacksonville, who had been scouting him and everything and talking to him, flat out told him before the second round, we're taking you. Don't worry, we're going to get you and everything. And then they took Miles Jack.
And they traded up to do it.
And they traded in front of the Chiefs.
Baby.
They traded in front of the Chiefs to take Miles Jack right in front of Chris Jones. Yeah, they gave up, what, 4th rounder or something
I mean,
to move up
that
and get him.
was John Dorsey playing 4D chess.
In fairness, Miles Jack had a really nice career, really solid
For a while.
I mean, Miles Jack is a solid player. He ain't no Chris Jones.
No, he is not.
By the way, I look back at Paxton Lynch. Anyone take a gander at how old he is and just what he's done?
Well, nothing.
Correct.
And
30?
He's 30.
Because he's older than Patrick.
I looked
his
at
draft
his
year and his year.
career trajectory so far. Feel bad. 2 years in the NFL, 4 games, couple practice squads, went to the Canadian Football League, got canned, XFL, got canned, and somehow that was a first-round draft pick that was enamoring folks.
And look, he might have been better with Andy Reid, but
Never know.
they're not taking a quarterback the very next year.
Exactly.
And-
That's
and
the thing.
Patrick
I mean,
Mahomes.
if you take a first-round quarterback in 15 or 16, do you come back and circle back with Patrick Mahomes?
Nope. You don't.
Well,
And,
that's
and so
kinda-
unanswered prayers, part of that, unanswered prayers. You want this guy, somebody trades in front of you, and that kind of sucks, and you might be hurting at that point, and you end up getting Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes the next year. So you trade back, and instead of getting Paxton Lynch, you get Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes. Like, it's the greatest trade in NFL history for this team. But it's fun to look back as they get ready for a three-peat, because in 2 weeks it's going to be full steam ahead. Right, it's going to be about what we're seeing in training camp. The preseason games are going to be starting August 10th. Where we're 5 weeks away from tomorrow from actually seeing Chiefs players on a football field. 5 weeks from tomorrow. It's crazy to think about. We'll be watching this team. And so we'll be full speed ahead. Then it's week 1 and who's going to make the squad and then when the season's over. But to have this time, right now in this 2-3 weeks, of sort of looking back and seeing all of the different things that happened along the way and forks in the road that some they didn't hit on, but a good majority that they did hit on for this team to be in this specific position. And things at the time that you just didn't even think of were all that big of a deal. Like, I wouldn't have thought it was that big of a deal to bring Brett Veach along with him. Oh, that's cool. He got some familiarity. It turns out that he brought one of the future best GMs in football with him at the time. It's fantastic. Outside of Patrick Mahomes, is there like a bigger one, like not even chronological, but that you look at and like was the most impactful? Maybe outside of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Like those seem to be the obvious ones. But
I mean, here's the crazy thing. I mean, I would say the 2016 draft, obviously, with Chris Jones and Tyreek Hill was big. But I think after doing this podcast and looking back on it, and I think I'm probably speaking for Nick too. I think we would both say this. I think after Patrick Mahomes, the second biggest move for this dynasty in progress was trading Tyreek Hill. Because look at that 2022 draft. And what are we talking about? Because in the first part of the show, we're talking about all these potential free agents that you can sign after this year that are going to be up for renewal.
Yeah.
George Karlaftis, Trent McDuffie. You got these 5 defensive backs that we're talking about. They're all competing for starting
Chanel
spots.
that we're talking about having a next
Isaiah
level.
Pacheco.
Yeah.
I mean, they hit on 9 of those 10 picks.
Yeah, Brian Cook.
I mean, Darian Kennard was the worst pick, and Darian Kennard was not a bad pick. I mean, it was a worthwhile pick. It just
They didn't hit on Sky though.
didn't work out.
I know.
This guy hasn't been. I mean, he hasn't been what you hoped for, but
He was a late second rounder, but
who knows? Maybe he still
hopefully
finds himself.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
never
he's got a year.
Hope he can find more.
He'll be for himself,
But I mean,
except for himself. Yeah.
There's plenty of teams. They're probably. I mean, there's a good chance that every other team in the NFL, though, their worst pick, their second worst pick might be a guy who never played in the league.
Yeah, right,
Sure.
right. That's a good point. Of that particular draft, the worst pick is a guy in Kennard in the 5th round, but again, that was a 5th
It
rounder.
was a 5th round pick.
And their
of a
second
guy
worst
who was
is Sky
SEC
Moore.
Offensive Lineman of the Year.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Second worst was Sky Moore. Now, I guess you could make the case of waiting for second round if it was Sky Moore and then Kennard as a 5th rounder. But still, those are the two. Everybody else has participated. Everybody else has been part of this team, has made plays, and some high level, big time draft picks.
I mean, and to me, there's 2 guys that the Chiefs let go, and with Marcus Peters, that was a big one too. And the funny thing is that the Chiefs, with those draft picks, I think it was, I'm trying to remember, one was Armani Watts. I'm trying to remember the other player
For Marcus Peters?
in the Marcus Peters trade that they ended up selecting. I can't remember who it was, but I'm blanking on it now.
Was it O'Daniel?
I want to say maybe it was. But I know from looking at it, the 2 players that they got have 3 Super Bowl rings amongst them. Marcus Peters still has 0.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's sometimes it's bad luck, but I will say this. I mean, there can be a legitimate reason why Marcus Peters doesn't have a Super Bowl ring, because he has played on Super Bowl caliber teams. Not saying he was the reason why they didn't win a Super Bowl, but I'm just saying.
I think it was Juan Thornhill.
I think
it
was.
It
Juan.
looks like it was Armani Watts
and
then Juan Thornhill.
Yeah. So that was, I mean, a good trade to me. I mean, especially because you weren't getting that from anybody else in the NFL. That was the best offer on the table, was that Rams offer. And I think the Chiefs got better with addition through subtraction there. They got better addition through subtraction when they let go of those 3 veterans.
Well, they also, go ahead, finish your thought.
They let go of Tom Bahali. They let go of Justin Houston. They let go of Eric Berry. 2 of those guys never played in the NFL again. And and Justin Houston's been a good player, but how many rings does Justin Houston have?
They also passed on signing D Ford to whether it was just needed to cut the string because of the last play or the last game in a Chiefs uniform and him being sort of the scapegoat, and maybe it just won't work moving forward. Maybe just cut ties. How
difficult and awkward would that have been if D Ford was on the team and Clark Hunt's there at training camp saying we were 2 inches from a Super Bowl?
Yeah, right. But he goes to San Francisco, signs a 5-year, $90 million contract, and the Chiefs get a second rounder for him, and they use it on Willie Gay.
Yeah.
And
D Ford played 7 games?
He played 18 games. I'm looking around. 18 games.
That was more.
Actually, had 9.5 sacks in those 18 games.
He was productive.
They traded for Willie Gay and his second round contract for D Ford's 5-year, $90 million contract.
Yeah.
Wild question, is D Ford almost a what could have been with health? Because when he was healthy, he was actually a very, very good player. Yeah, he had double-digit sacks twice in his first 5 years in Kansas City.
Yeah, no.
And then he was good when healthy with San Fran, just never healthy.
Once the back gives out, you're done.
But again, that was recognizing that it's time to move on from this guy, whether it was partly – I mean, if they win the Super Bowl, I don't know if they move on from him or not. They probably do, because I think they've shown the discipline enough to be able to make these decisions. They move on from Tyreek Hill.
I mean, if the Chiefs win that game against the Patriots, does this dynasty even happen?
Because Bob Sutton is probably retained.
Bob Sutton probably comes back.
And you're right, though. I think D Ford gets that contract here because he was a Pro Bowler, 13 sacks in 16 games, played every single game, 13 sacks. And forced 7 fumbles. You're sitting there going, well, now he's your linchpin. He's who you build around.
Yep.
That's pretty crazy to think about.
We'll take a time out. Matt, you're the man as always. It's not crazy to think about how awesome Matt Derrick is. Chiefs Digest and 41 is the Mike podcast. Matt, thank you as always, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me out here to be at the barbecue place. I mean, this has been the best day ever.
Yes, he is presented by Cap One Lending, and today we are hanging out at Rosedale Barbecue, 600 Southwest Boulevard, KCK. It is the 90th anniversary for Rosedale opening up their doors in 1934 on June 4th or July 4th. And tomorrow being July 4th, they're going to be open until 4 o'clock tomorrow. So if you're looking for some food, for whether it be lunch to stop in and hang out, or get some food to take to your cookout, to your grill out to your friends and whatever party and get together gathering you might be going to, $19.34 slabs for Rosedale. That is through Sunday. And it is an awesome spot, man. Here since 1934, 4 generations of the family and that authentic barbecue style, smoking over the wood and the fire. One of the styles that the KC barbecue forefathers here with a world-renowned barbecue area in Kansas City, and Rosedale certainly a big part of that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. More Zone next.
Visit Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway this summer for exciting live sports action. We've got the biggest screens around, and ESPN Bet is live in Kansas. Plus, Pin Play Rewards members can win up to $5.
4th, so you can come by and get some awesome food that Rosedale barbecue taste. And if you're stopping in today, you can sign up for a chance to win $50 gift card to Rosedale. So come in, get some food, and sign up, and maybe you walk away with a $50 gift card. Maybe not literally walk away because we're going to do the drawing at 2 o'clock, but you get the point. But a $50 gift card.
Well, you might walk away if you're still here.
If you're still here, man.
Yeah, it's possible.
If you're looking at your second or third course after you show up and have some food, because, you could it's like it's a tough sliding scale to weigh how you want to eat the food here. You can go the Sterling route of eating it so fast that maybe you don't actually enjoy it. I think you do enjoy it, but you ate it so fast that maybe you don't enjoy it.
Why would I wait? I enjoy it so much. Why would I let it stop?
Right. But then you're full. Or you can go another route of grazing, eating a little bit here and there while enjoying it for a longer period of time, but you might get full quicker. And then your body will not eat as much.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's the smart way. I don't know what the better route is. I know what route you took.
For health, it's the grazing.
Yes,
for
probably.
the food eating competition, it's me.
Yeah,
that's why I can pack so much food for my 5'10" frame.
Tomorrow ain't exactly taking their time to enjoy the Nathan's hot dogs. Tomorrow, they're not just taking their time to do that. No, that's they eat it fast. They don't do it for the taste though. You barreled through that because of how great it tastes.
Yeah, I don't understand how people eat so slow. Like Matt Derrick is still here, and I'm just sorry, not trying to take a shot right now.
Matt's still here. Why? I mean,
no.
We were done with him.
But that would I housed mine an hour and a half ago. Like I'm just
you did house it pretty quickly.
I'm just a quick eater, I guess. I don't know.
I'm typically a quick eater, but I want to enjoy it. And we've got a show to do as well. So the food is the backdrop of our show.
Food's first.
Exactly. I'm just saying from your standpoint, the food comes first in the show, which is perfectly fine. Everybody has their own priorities in life. But you know what? I think I'm enjoying it more because each break I get to go and eat some more, and you're full. I get to go and everybody. Next break, I'm going to go enjoy some more Rosedale barbecue. I'm going to go do that. 913-912-4810. Mick Schaefer is going to join us. We got the cuts before the show is over. Do you think we'll get to a point, Sterling and Dylan, ever where no matter what is or is not reviewable, that if they go to a review, they'll just simply say, we're going to get the call right? No matter what the rules of, well, this is reviewable, this isn't reviewable, you know what? The right call is this. From last night, when pretty obvious that MJ Melendez, it was obstruction. The guy's leg was in front of the bag. MJ Melendez didn't touch the bag because he touched his foot, which is the definition of obstruction with the new rule, the, quote, emphasis. And so, smartly, the Rays go, he didn't touch the bag. Obstruction's not reviewable. We're going to challenge. He's out. He never touched the bag. Guy tagged him. Hand wasn't on the bag. His hand was on the foot. So they go to replay. Sure enough, he's out. He didn't touch the bag. But there was obstruction. But obstruction isn't reviewable. So the origin of instant replay was we just want to get the call right. It may take a little time, right? It may take some of the momentum from the game. It may take some of the pace of the game away, right? But we want to get the call right. And so they took away the pace. They took away some of the momentum. They had to review it, and they got the call wrong because one aspect wasn't reviewable. That was the most obvious part.
It's not in the spirit of why the rule came about, and that's what really frustrates me. It's the same thing when, the sliding into second base, and if you're a millimeter off the bag, well, you beat it by a second, but because you're a millimeter off based on physics, now that's an out. I've always said there should be almost like a sliding scale. If you're above,
you're above the base.
But I'm not saying you can just fly it.
But can you slide past it? No, But if you're switching from your hand to your leg, right?
Like common sense is all I ask. Same thing in the NBA down the stretch when you can review who the ball's out on. But a lot of times, and I actually like it in the NBA and just in basketball in general. Let's say you almost foul someone as you're going out of bounds. You grab their hand, but you don't want to slow the game down. Let's be real. It's not affecting the game. So you just give the ball.
Yep.
But you can't do it in the final minute or two of NBA games. And we've seen teams get screwed. And I almost feel for the refs.
I get it.
Because they're saying we've done this all game because this is just how we're not going to call a foul on every single out of bounds play.
It was a foul on this guy. I'm not going to call that ticky-tack foul his foul is the reason the ball went off on this guy.
Yes.
I'm not going to call the ticky-tack foul, but I am going to give it to that team.
Yeah.
They got the ball.
Yeah.
Now under a minute, you can't do that.
And it's just not in the spirit of how the rule came about. Those are the ones, especially the NBA and just basketball in general. That's the most frustrating one. But yeah, last night same thing because of the obstruction that wasn't called. Now you can go and review a separate part of the play. And honestly, Jose Altuve the other day had one that was brutal, where he hit one off his foot, and the umpire called it in play.
Yeah.
Into the game. I think it was into the game.
No, he got thrown out of the game.
He got thrown out of the game. And it's one of those ones where you go, just review it. If the whole point of review is to get it right, didn't get it right, why are we picking and choosing? I guess you don't do it for every little minute thing, but
if you're going to
people
replay
are
that,
already replaying so much nonsense to begin with. Why not get plays that are actually game-changing the KU basketball game? Sorry, KU fans. The block on that was clean.
Yeah.
Like, how is that not reviewable?
Yeah. But even at that point, like, you know, even if you review it, yes, you give a chance to the other team to go and make a play. But if the foul wasn't called, or if that was just simply officiated correctly, they've got a 5-on-4 with 13 seconds to go down by 1, running a sort of a fast break to a degree. So you can't recreate that.
Maybe
but
at least
at
the
least
ball
you
back,
can get the ball
and
back.
the game's not over.
Yes, and give them that
And
ball.
again, that was a hard call in the moment. And again, I'm not trying to pick on KU
right.
fan. It looked like a foul until you slowed it down, and I get that. But
This one's easy because the player was right in front of the umpire. He could see that the guy's leg was sitting right in front of second base, and then even in replay you could see that, but you can't review it. Like, we just want to get the call right. But yes, it was obviously obstruction because the player blocked the bag, but obstruction isn't reviewable, so therefore the runner is out by virtue of the player blocking the bag and the runner not touching it. Like, I mean, explain that logic.
it's just either if you're going to use review, have it so it makes sense and it's common sense, which I think is what we want in life is common sense. Just in life, you want everything to be common sense. Stop making everything so convoluted to try and fit a narrative or fit one aspect of it. And if not, then just take replay out of the game because then all you're doing is slowing it down and you're still getting it wrong.
Well, if the argument and discussion about what is and isn't a catch in the NFL for a long time, and still all of that of surviving the ground, and then it's
Des caught it. Des caught it.
There was, and I can't remember who it was, but they said, and it was a great analysis of that, and said if everybody at home watching thinks it's one thing, that's probably what it should be.
Yeah.
If everybody at home watches and agrees that, hey, this is a catch, well, then why is your rule saying that is not a catch? And so if everybody at home is going, well, that's easily obstruction, that guy should be safe,
I got an
but
idea.
yet he's out because of what is and isn't reviewable. And I know it went against the Royals last night. I know we get into the does it help or not. That's an easily, to me, what could be an easily reviewable if they want to go, well, you know, it's more subjective than anything else. You know, it's not necessarily objective, it's subjective. And like, come on. All right, is he blocking the bag or not? That seems to be almost damn near objective than just, well, is it, what's the interpretation of the rule? Well, that's the specific emphasis of the rule was last night.
Well, I have an idea. It's going to take them 5 minutes, whatever it is, to come with a call. What they're going to do is throw it on Twitter, throw it on the X. You
5-minute vote.
5-minute vote. Is this a catch or not?
Yeah, but then
and
you're just
no.
Okay.
And you can't be a fan of the teams. So maybe you have to like geolocate it. So like you'll get fans. Like the Cowboys are gonna have the biggest advantage probably because there's fans everywhere. But the Chiefs probably have fans everywhere too right now, so it'll work. You're just gonna have to.
I don't think that's gonna work.
Just poll it. Poll the general population because Des caught it, and I think 95% would have said Des caught it.
Des absolutely caught it. Des 100% caught it.
The Bills running back out of the backfield did not catch it.
Yeah,
And I think if you would have polled the average fan, I think 80% say that's not a catch.
Well,
I'm just saying.
They're rooting against the Chiefs
I
now,
was
so
about
that
to
is
say,
definitely.
yeah.
Now it's going to be whatever it hurts the Chiefs is what we are going to vote
Yeah,
for.
he could have punted that football into the stands, and everyone would have voted that he caught it because it was the Chiefs.
That's exactly right. That is 100% true. We will take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. We are hanging out at Rosedale Barbecue on this Wednesday edition of the show. We are off tomorrow. We're off on Friday as well, but we got some best stuff coming your way. And then we got the replay starting at 2 o'clock on Friday of Super Bowl 58 with Westwood One, some Kevin Harlan, some Kurt Warner, some Laura Oakman, and Mike Golick. they will all be on the call and get to relive that a little bit if you're out and about on Friday. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue more Zone next. All right, man, if you're out there and you may be suffering from erectile dysfunction, you know the right treatment for your specific medical situation. hanging out at Rosedale Barbecue. Awesome spot. Thankfully, one more hour to go, some more food that we can be eating, grazing for the hour, as I like to do, at least during the show, not hoover some of the food that Sterling Holmes was able to do. But we're going to hang out and talk with Mick Schaefer coming up in the next hour. We got cuts before the show is over as well. Hanging out with you, Rosedale Barbecue, 90th anniversary. 90th anniversary, July 4th, 1934. And they are selling slabs of ribs for $19.34 in honor of that founding year, going on today through Sunday. And they're open tomorrow, starting at or up until 4 o'clock, closing at 4 o'clock tomorrow, so open until 4 if you want to stop in. It's Rosedale Barbecue. You can stop in today. $50 gift card to Rosedale we're getting you registered for as well.
The Zone is presented by Guarantee Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we got one more hour to go here at Rosedale Barbecue, and I don't know if I'm excited about that. Only 1 hour to go because it is awesome stuff. The smell is great.
Did I miss the food?
Yeah, they actually stopped serving
food.
No, they stopped serving food at 12:58. What are the odds? What are the odds? A lot of people think that Rosedale goes throughout the day, but nope, 12:58.
That's it.
Don't confuse people. They are still open. You can still get your $19.34 ribs.
Unless your name is Mick Schaefer.
I don't deserve
or
it.
Joseph.
Oh, we out of ribs?
No, you're done. Done there.
We're out of ribs for now.
For now.
Wow.
Okay. Take that, Mick.
You told me the amount you made.
Well, I was never
You
gonna
told
order
me that. That's awesome.
Yeah. You know what?
It's a damn good day.
400 pounds of meat a day, Mick.
Not including ribs.
Not including ribs.
Not including ribs.
I believe it.
They're in the cooker. The ones
they're
that I saw
smoking
this
right now.
morning that should be good for about dinner. Yeah, they're smoking more right now. It's
I'm
gonna
all
take
about
time.
I'm all about the Belt Buster sandwich, boys.
Oh yeah, the Belt Buster is
Yeah.
awesome. I had the dynamic duo, which is if you want a little spice, want a little kick in your life, you can do that. Beef deluxe is what
Chopped
Sterling
beef
goes
on
with.
bun.
Okay.
Chopped beef on bun.
Otherwise known as the beef deluxe.
Where does it say beef deluxe on here?
I don't know where it says that.
Where? But where does it say chopped beef on bun?
Where does it say
Royale with chopped beef. Royale with
that? Royale,
cheese.
which yeah, because the metric system.
That's right.
That's why. Which, by the way, Nate Bargatze is going to be in Tahoe next week, and I just want to talk about the George Washington sketch on Saturday Night Live with him.
It belongs this season or the past calendar year or whatever, or whenever it aired, has had some of the greatest SNL skits of all time. You have the Beavis and Butthead,
Yeah.
and then you have that one up there, which when I saw, I'm like, this is maybe the best.
What happened?
And
Is SNL back all of a sudden? Like,
No, here's the
It's
deal,
not
like-
back, but it's like
it's a
better.
great show for when
Heidi
they do,
Gardner. Once they get Heidi Gardner in
When
there,
they do the best ofs, it's a great show because you pick and choose the one great skit from each Saturday, and you have to sit through the bad ones, right?
Yeah.
And so they are hit or miss. I believe more miss than hit.
Yeah.
But they've knocked a couple out of the park,
Yeah,
and that's one of them.
and that one was.
Are you going to get to talk to
so
him?
Good. We planned an opportunity to talk with him last year, and his tea time got changed, and so we had to do a quick video.
Yeah.
So I did like a 5-minute video for the website. I did hang out with him at the celebrity karaoke and talked with him for like 5 to 10 minutes. So that was cool.
So
But
he's probably playing, right? I know he's a big golfer.
Yeah, he plays. He's pretty good. And so this year, my plan is to early on set up a time with him to get him on the air and sit down with him. And
I
talk,
want him to
because he's-
haze me in his dry sense of
He's
humor.
my favorite
Oh, it should
comic
be
right
hard.
now.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be. That's my
See,
point. That
Mick's
it's
already
gonna be
started.
good.
Yeah, I'm not even funny. I'm doing it. Yeah.
Mick's already getting it started. He's already getting you ready. He's just trying to
Yeah,
prep you.
well, this is what I like. See, I don't get starstruck by like anyone. Nate Bargatze might be that guy. He's funny.
And he's clean. It's great. I can watch the comedy specials with my kids.
This was, I think it was 4 years ago. It's either 20 or 21. We were still kind of in it was December, still kind of in the throes of COVID and everything, and the comedy shops were kind of opening back up, but with restrictions and everything. My brother was performing up at Zona Rosa, and he was like, hey, come watch the show, and this headliner, watch him. He's so good, he makes me want to quit comedy. He's like, it's so effortless with him. And we got there, and it was Nate Bargatze, and nobody had heard of him at the time.
That was at Zona Rosa?
Zona Rosa.
Oh,
and so we saw so much of one of his first Netflix specials. So much of that was in that show. The great joke about when he's trying to meet his family down in Florida and
The airport.
Well, the airport, and she's giving him the wrong information.
Freaking brilliant.
And I'm like, yeah, it's this just kind of like stammering delivery, stream of consciousness that is just hilarious and just
brilliant.
They're all story. Usually, I don't like comedians that like just tell stories, right? I'm like, okay, just deliver jokes. But his stories are just great, and I think he's the funniest guy in the world right now.
the quick little internet or the social media video that we did. And I was just like, you have so many of these jokes about, your wife. Does it ever bother her? And he goes, oh, her feelings don't matter.
He was ready for that one.
Yeah, he was ready for that one. And then off the air, yes, obviously he's very complimentary of his family and loves his family. But on the air, it's like, he's done some interviews where he's like, well, she understands.
Yeah,
like she
it's part
gets
of the deal.
It's part of the deal.
Like
She
Jesselneck,
gets
he's
it.
like, I'll kill off my entire family once a week in these shows. No, I have normal parents. They love me. I love them. But yeah, and the shows they're dying, right?
Yes, that's right. I can't. It's who was it that? Oh, the roast of Tom Brady. Went to KU from St. Louis. Host of Tom. She killed it.
Oh yeah,
Nikki Glaser.
Nikki Glaser.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, she talks about how like her family's like it's very like they get it, but during the show like it's you're
It's
part of it.
fair game.
It's fodder. I always Mick. This everything's content.
I did. That's why I don't tell you anything about my life. I don't share secrets with you at all.
Or Mick is the only person that I know that about twice a week he'll go, Now this isn't for the air.
yes.
How many conversations I've had with Mick Schaefer that he has started with, now this isn't for the air.
We should do a
Been
best
lot.
of. We should do a best of. This isn't for the air, Mick Schaefer.
There's a great line in Princess Bride when he's out hanging on the cliff, and Inigo Montoya, who ends up being later his best friend, the Man in Black, he wants to throw rope. He's like, no good, I don't trust you. He's like, what if I gave you my word as a Spaniard? He's like, no good, I've known too many Spaniards. I'm like, the same deal's like, no good, I've known too many radio guys.
No.
Jason's like, I promise, no good, I've known too many radio guys.
I'm not going to tell you this, not at all, but I do love the preference of this is not for air. Okay, so we can have a conversation about this. Now, this is not, I'm just telling you, this is not for air, all right?
And to be fair, it's kind of tough. You're on the air for 4 hours with no notes or scripts. I mean, Sterling has a teleprompter that he reads off of, but
End
you'll
quote.
shake that
Yeah.
eventually. Right?
End quote. Mick Schaefer's here. End quote.
Yes, right. Mick Schaefer's here? Put a question mark in the prompter.
Gun, parentheses. Darn it, I went to say that. Now let Mick talk. Oh, shoot, I did that. I did read. So sometimes we have these copy points that we're talking about with different advertisers, and a lot of it, like, you end up knowing offhand just from, memorizing it over the days and months and years. But there was one copy points for, I don't remember the company, but I actually read the top of the email on the air that said, now make sure you mention this. It's like, now make sure you mention this. All right, well.
Like Biden at the end of a speech these days.
And you know what? I am going to mention that. Thank you for reminding me, because I will mention that. Mick Schaefer is with us. Mick, I started off the show saying that I got my wish, and I'm mad I got my wish. So my wish last night was that they did not end the game after 5 and let them go back out there and play, because I thought, the Royals can get out there and win. And I wasn't at the game. I wasn't covering the game, so I had a little bit of an easier task of sitting on the couch and watching the last couple of episodes of The Bear while the rain delay was going on. But I'm like, man, the Royals are playing such good baseball. I'd hate for this to be a loss. They benefited from one earlier in the year. Let them get out there and play. And then after the game was over, I'm like, man, that sucked. They should have just called that thing after the 5th. They should have just called that thing.
In the 6th inning, the first run that Schreiber, gave up, because I stayed at the station. I was out there at the game until the rains came with my family, mother-in-law in town. We got everybody out there.
Did you leave right away? Right when the tarp came on?
No, I tried to, and it was just a gale force winds and just a maelstrom. It just hit. I'm like, well, I have to go wait. And so it was past 9 before I was able to head back to the station. And so after we did the show, I'm like, I'm going to stick around and watch this game. So I'm back there by myself, and then they get with me. I'm like, wait a second, I just stuck around for 2.5 hours to watch the Royals bullpen. What was I thinking?
That is a great point. What were you?
What was I thinking? And then also, how mad was Brady? We know how Brady Singer gets with rain delays. How mad was he? Although I think they would have ran him back out for the 6th, which might have been better. And then Bobby gets one back. I'm like, okay, we're back where we started. No, we're not, because the bullpen's still throwing baseballs.
Well, and you had 3 runs that scored by baseballs that were hit to a player that should have fielded the ball.
Pasquantino was at 200 miles an hour. The infield was in.
But he got nutmegged.
He did.
Right through his legs.
They called it a hit.
Yeah, and C.J. Alexander,
that run still would have scored, but I mean, you got to throw a glove on that.
He's already shown us enough that
throw a glove on that. He got his first hit, and then
make.
Omaha can be his next destination.
Yeah, that's I'm with you. He's just not.
He's
not good enough defensively to play right now for a team that's not scoring enough.
No.
And he's not doing enough to help the scoring.
Makes you yearn for Michael Garcia.
Yeah, I want Michael Garcia over third. Yes,
base.
try C.J. Alexander at second right now. I mean, I don't know, because there's a reason they've had him play first and outfield at AAA. Yeah. So if they really felt like this guy was a stud third base, and we've seen that defense from C.J. Alexander, he's not providing enough offense that he's hurting the team right now. He can't be playing.
And let's throw some on the bad boy too. You pick up the chair. You pick up the stool.
The chair. Yep.
It always goes with you.
Yep. It
always goes
cost
with
you
you.
a run. That chair cost him a run.
I will say C.J. Alexander's first at bat, that was a phenomenal splitter that came down and in. It looked like it was coming at him, and it just caught the top of the strike zone. Great pitch. I'm like, okay, good at bat. 'Cause I think you get to a full count at that point, right? But that second at bat, I thought was nice, because it was the same splitter. This time was low that he was able to dump into right field. But even with that, even if that's the one that helps him offensively start to try and get something going, right? You see your first major league hit. Defensively, it is, as you're mentioning, such a utter negative from Michael Garcia. And I get, you were talking with Kaiser about how maybe Michael's playing second to try and show other teams trade deadline style. Hey, he can play third, he can play short, he can play second, he
Or
can do a
they've
little.
got something in the works for a third baseman. I don't know.
Sure, could be the same situation. But what we do know is C.J. Alexander is actively hurting this team defensively. Not even with his bat, defensively with his ability at third base. And with Vinny, as you're talking about too, Vinny started off the year, we're all sitting here going, wow, he looks a lot better defensively. A lot better defensively. Well, he's
Had a
really come
couple that
back to
gone underneath
earth
his glove.
the past couple weeks. And I don't know if that's, he needs the All-Star break. He hasn't had many games off, obviously. But, I mean, he kind of has because Salvi plays first.
Well, as
of
late, like he's still digging, like he's still doing that over at first base, which I think is perfectly fine. Like he's good at that. It's been the grounders that he's now got 3 of them that have just gone underneath his glove, or grounders that maybe get a glove on it, knock it down, that have just now gone into right field for doubles. Like it's happened 3 times in the last couple of weeks, which is surprising from the defender that he's been with the Royals.
Well, Vinny and CJ did not put the runners on base that scored those runs, okay? And the ball was hit 200 miles an hour. And then in
Which is a record.
the only
Seems
inning,
like a hyperbole.
the only inning that the bullpen didn't give up runs in, they loaded the bases with 1 out. It should have been multiple runs. Are you kidding me? No, I'm done. I don't make excuses anymore.
Okay, as
for
bad
this
as the
crappy
bullpen is, which
And
no, I agree. You score 1 run.
Yes, I would say the offense was worse than the defense last night. Yeah.
And look, the loading the bases in the 8th inning, getting out of it. Everybody expected Carlos Hernandez to get out of that. Bases loaded, 1 out. Carlos Hernandez is going to find a way to get a pop up and a fly out. That's just what's going to happen.
With no strikeouts too.
Yeah, I mean he did load the bases himself with only 1 out. I'm just saying, like we knew he would find a way to get out of it. That is the surprising part of it. Like Schreiber and Stratton and Carlos Hernandez, like did my job. I went out there for an inning, didn't give up a run, boys. Your turn. See what
Only took 34 pitches.
Hand it over to Nick Anderson. Oh, you gave up a home run? Oh, I guess you didn't do your job, Nick. I did mine though. Didn't give up a run.
No, Littell, man, he just
Yeah.
peppered the strike zone last night, and the Royals weren't able to get leadoff runners on. When they did get a guy to second, they got picked off. And
did they get picked off though?
yeah, well,
they got obstructed.
Listen.
News.
MJ found a way to make an out even after a double.
Yeah, we're going to give that news right now.
News.
Should we give the news right now?
Breaking news.
Is it breaking news?
Breaking
it's
news.
It's very, very, very specific locally to where we are breaking news.
Very specific breaking
Okay.
news.
Thank you, Dylan.
If you're listening to the podcast, this probably isn't as big of a deal for you.
Nope, not for you.
But if you're live right now, breaking news: Ribs will be back available at Rosedale around 3 to 3:15. It will be limited to 3 slabs.
Can you please
All right.
announce? Dang it, I did it again. I'm just reading whatever's on the teleprompter. Son of a gun.
Ribs, they're back, baby.
$19.34 in honor of the founding year, 90th anniversary of Rosedale, July 4th, 1934, when they opened up their doors, and $19.34 slabs have been such a great deal that they are out right now. And so they will be back available around 3 to 3:15, and then 3 slabs per person will be limited to the 3 slabs. So there you go. So they'll be back around 3 or 3:15. Also open tomorrow until 4. The special goes on into Saturday and Sunday as well. So there you go. And Mick, you had already said that you weren't going to get the ribs anyway. You were going to enjoy some other things. So,
I'm a big baby with I love the sandwiches.
Right,
at
you said
all
the
these
Belt
barbecue
Buster.
spots. Yeah.
You looked at, you're like, look,
doing the Belt Buster.
I'm at
Let's go.
Rosedale.
Yeah.
I'm getting the Belt Buster. I'm at Rosedale. I'm getting the Belt Buster. I got the dynamic duo. Sterling got the beef deluxe.
No, I got the chopped beef on bun. Okay. We're calling it. Is it the beef deluxe?
Boss lady
She says yes.
Beef deluxe.
Boss lady says yes.
I'm just going by Frank Bowl.
I'm just saying I'm going to
Frank
keep
Bowl-
calling it the chopped beef on bun.
Look, Frank Bowl worked
same
about
thing. It's the same thing, Jason.
Frank Bowl worked about 5 minutes from here for about 150 years. All right, this was his spot. And Todd
Okay.
Lebo told us the story. He used to send Todd all the time down here to go get the food for the people working there. And Todd had to come to Rosedale and get the food for Frank Bowl and the sports staff. And it was the beef deluxe with the pound of fries.
I'm just telling you, when I came as a child with my father, okay, got the chopped beef on bun. That's what we called it. I'm sorry.
Well,
you're not going to switch that from me.
It's a family. Look, it's 4th generation family thing here. It's my family as well. Okay,
Yes,
this
it's
is what my family
third
does. It's
generation. My
tradition.
grandfather to my dad to myself.
That's right.
There we
There you go.
Come on.
Frank was one of the first through the doors back here in 1934.
You know what we were talking about? Trying
Best friends with the
we were
founder.
trying to figure out how much a slab of ribs was in 34. I should have just texted Frank.
Yeah.
So, like, Frank, how much?
This text I'm sending you costs more.
Hey, you scum. I don't know, you scum. Mick Schaefer is our guest. So obstruction. That seems
great.
pretty obvious. I'm glad they got it right because that's what replay's for.
I was there and I was announcing, that's obstruction. That's obstruction thinking. I knew you couldn't review it, but I'm like, okay, but if it gets to New York, they can obviously see that and say that was obstruction. I was dumb. That was wrong, apparently.
So stupid.
And I thought Q was going to lose it, but I guess he just realized, okay, you can't review it. I've learned my lesson on that. And I would have at least gone out there and told the base something like, okay, you missed that, right? You realize you missed that, right? You've seen it up there on the gigantic Jumbotron. You realize that? Do you realize now?
I'm going to get thrown out of another game because of a missed obstruction call.
Do you
all
think
right?
umpires,
Twice.
umpires hate playing at the K because their mishaps are broadcasted even larger on the big?
They're broadcast everywhere, right?
No,
There's
but
billboards everywhere.
I'm saying the
Jumbotron,
the crown vision is like the largest. So I feel like it's
Is
even
it the largest still? I know it was
It
when they
was,
put it in.
it
It's
was.
almost like quarterback salaries, right? The
then it
next
keeps
one's going to be
going.
the biggest. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's huge up there, and it was right there, and it's great camera work. Whoever is on the first camera or whatever, and it was hand grabbing cleat.
Yes, he was grabbing his foot. Yeah, but he's out because he didn't touch the bag. Right, because of obstruction. Yeah, but it's not reviewable.
Review it.
Okay, so if it's not reviewable, then what? He didn't touch the bag. He's out.
Well,
but why didn't he touch the bag? Because of obstruction. What are we talking?
I get judgment calls, block charge, pass interference. Right, there's a lot of gray area there.
For sure.
I don't know why that's a judgment call. That can be just easy peasy, right? It's the same as like a tag. It's the same as if he tagged him before he gets to the base.
But here's the thing. Can't you review the catcher blocking home plate? So it's not only an out safe at home with the catcher, you can also review if the catcher was catcher gave the lane for the runner, which is completely subjective. So
and completely the same thing.
So we actually can review
second base.
We
second
can
base is
review.
easier to tell than catchers.
Yeah, we can review subjective things. We couldn't even tell if the ball hit the black part of the pole or the yellow part of the pole. Excuse me. They couldn't tell if the ball hit the black part of the pole or the yellow. We all could tell. Everybody at home saw that it was a foul ball, and yet it was a fair ball. So,
Are you also with me, like in basketball?
Probably not.
Okay.
we'll take a timeout.
No, like in the NBA, this last 2 minutes, because obviously during the course of a game, they're going to call a foul every single time there's an out-of-bounds play. Someone kind of grabs, goes over the top, hits someone's hand. They just call it out on the guy who fouled him, and they just give the ball to the other team, right?
I'd call a foul if he fouled him. That's what I would do.
No, but they don't do it all the time. This
it's
happened with the Celtics-Pacers series, potentially. Down the stretch, Brown got fouled. Should have been off of the Pacers, but because they didn't call a foul on the floor, because just throughout the course of the game, you're just not going to call that. You're just going to give the ball to the other team and just keep going. Well, now when you go to review, there's no foul called, and you have to now say it's off of Jaylen Brown, even though you can tell the dude has his hand, grabs his arm.
But you can't.
But you can't go back and call a foul. And my whole point was with that same thing with baseball. Right. The whole point of review was to get it right. Well, now people are taking advantage because coaches are now saying, "Hey, I know you foul him down the stretch because maybe they won't call it and it's going to go out of bounds on the other guys." Like this is now being used in the complete opposite way of what the rule was intended.
I think the rule at second base, what you guys are talking about, would make total sense. Okay, if you got to second first on a slide and your hand touches first, you are allowed to slide through it to your feet. Right? If you go past the bag, you're out. Right? Mm-hmm. But if you come up for a nanosecond between your hand, your elbow, and your waist, or your waist and your knee, or your knee and your foot, that is fine. I'm all for that. And I think what we see at the end of basketball games, a lot of times when it's so super slow-mo now and the HD's so good, a lot of times if I'm holding the ball and you knock it away, you would think out on you, right? Well, a lot of times the last sliver of flesh it touches is the offensive guys.
But it shouldn't be.
It should be out on the defense. Yeah.
Yes, it's and that's what I'm talking about. Where we came up with a review to try and make it easier, and now we're actually making it harder on ourselves. Let's use common sense. Mick,
I'm
you
all
and me.
for common sense.
2024, Mick Holmes, common sense.
I don't get to go by my last name?
Schaefer Sterling.
Yeah, typically we go
Are we combining into one person? What are we doing? Mick Holmes?
Mick Holmes or Schaefer Sterling? What is it? It's supposed to be both last names.
Sterling Schaefer.
Mick Sterling.
It'd be Schaefer.
It'd be Schaefer
I'll be
Holmes.
president. Let's be honest.
It's Schaefer Holmes.
You're not even old enough to be president.
I need about another 5 years.
Another 105 years, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say you have to be at least 35, but you can. If you're 34, you can't run for president. If you're 134, you can.
Yes.
So, which is perfect. Makes total sense. Speaking of things changing a lot, whether that's instant replay, but home run derby, new rules for home run derby this year.
Yeah, what were they? I knew they were coming out the other night.
So they have new. Only Gunnar Henderson is the one that's agreed to it. So they don't in the first round. They no longer have the head-to-head. So the first round will be the 8 home run participants. The top 4 will
makes
advance.
sense.
So
Sure.
no head-to-head. The semis and the finals will then be seeded. The semis will be seeded 1 through 4 based on how many home runs you hit.
Makes sense.
And then the finals will be, the best 2 of those head-to-head. The first round and the semifinals, instead of having just the 3 minutes and swing and swing and swing, and then if you hit 445 feet, then you get a bonus.
Yeah.
So it is 3 minutes or 40 pitches, and then everybody gets a bonus, and the bonus is 3 outs, the way that it used to be back in the day. So you get 3 outs, and if you hit 425 feet, you get an extra out.
Yeah.
So the home runs during the 3 minutes of the 40 pitches, that length doesn't matter. Everybody's going to get a bonus of 3 outs.
And we don't have to wait for it to land anymore, right?
Because now you're going 40 pitches.
Yeah.
So you don't. So it can still. They're trying to combine it because when it was only the outs, then it took long because guys would take their time and get set back in the box.
The clock has been the best addition to
so
that.
then they include the clock, and then you've got players that are saying, "I'm not going to participate because." This person
40
got
pitches would be 1 every 4.5 seconds. I don't think
it's a
anybody's
lot.
Well,
getting to 40.
no, the fewest,
average was 43.
The fewest pitches
in 3 minutes.
The fewest pitches anybody saw last year was 43 pitches. Was the fewest that they saw. So 40
Is that
pitches.
counting the bonus too?
I don't think it counts the bonus because they did the study and they were like the fewest pitches they saw was 43, so they wanted it to be to where they weren't going as fast.
The participants averaged more than 43 swings, not pitches. 43 swings.
So there might be more
per
than
round.
pitches because sometimes
so
they
now
take them.
there's 40 pitches.
Yeah, see, I saw the pitches that the fewest last year of pitches that any participant in any round saw was 43.
Yeah,
Am I doing my
and then
math wrong on
the average was 43.
It's 180
swings per round.
seconds divided by 40 is about 4.5.
I mean, because they
It's
don't.
like 3.5 seconds.
4.5.
Well, because if you hit a ground ball, you're
Good
right
job,
there ready to go
Schaefer
again.
Holmes.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you hit a ground ball, you're right there ready to go again.
They're reloading that quick, huh? Okay.
Yeah. They still get their 145-second timeout.
I
But
don't.
then
all of these sound great. It's an exhibition, and once they put the clock in, I'm like, this is the best invention of this century.
And the finals is 2 minutes or 27 pitches. So they've combined what used to be where you've got some guys that can take a little bit more time and be required to be more efficient. Whereas not taking all day to be like, all right, throw the next pitch, dude.
Yeah.
All right, this guy's just up there sort of no more Garcia-Parra between every single one because Aaron Judge said that he got hurt by swinging that much. By the rapid swinging trying to win, he hurt his shoulder. So you've got players that are going, I'm going to be too competitive in this, and all of the swings constantly.
Cut
I'm
them
gonna get
all
hurt.
down in 2 minutes on 5.
I have an idea.
Oh, boy.
Bring back Josh Hamilton.
Just for this, he's
Just
just
for
every
this.
year.
Just Josh Hamilton should come back for this.
Well, I mean, they've got one right now. They've got 7 more spots to fill. And Aaron
Bobby.
Judge is out. Shohei Ohtani's out. Those guys aren't participating. I don't know who else they're going to get. But
Get Bobby
there's
Bombs.
I bet Pete Alonso.
Pete Alonso, yeah, he may participate in this one, depending on what team he's on by the All-Star break. He might be on the Mets. He might be on a different one. I don't know. But how would they do that this year? Because it doesn't count anymore, right? So would you be an all-star if you went from the NL to the AL? Would they honor that? Because there was a player, God, his name escapes me. There'll be texts that'll come. There was a player that was traded right before the All-Star break.
Athletics, I believe.
He was a National League All-Star, and he got traded to the American League, and it counted, right? It was back when the games counted. You got home field advantage for it in the World Series. So they didn't allow him on the AL, but they gave him a commemorative NL to be at the All-Star game, but he couldn't participate. He couldn't participate because he wasn't in the NL, and he wasn't an
Man
AL
without a
All-Star.
league.
So he got an NL jersey that didn't play in the game, and I can't remember who that was.
I looked this up last year.
But I think now they'd be like, all right, whatever. We can take an extra guy on the American League because the game doesn't count anymore. It's an exhibition. So sure, go out there and play. You weren't an all-star, or play for the National League. I don't care. Play for whatever league you were an all-star with.
Jeff Smarja.
Samardzija, that's what it was.
And
Yeah.
that was 2014, and I thought.
Yeah, and he was a pitcher anyway, so odds of him getting in are still pretty low as it is. So that was probably
Yeah, he was
big deal.
traded from the Cubs to the A's.
Cubs to the A's, there it was, NL to the AL, and then he got like a Cubs NL All-Star jersey to wear during the game.
He wore a generic NL jersey and All-Star game cap for the pregame
Because
player
usually
introductions.
it's early enough to where those big trades haven't happened
Typically
yet,
not.
right?
Yep, that's exactly right. And so yeah, that's I don't know who all is going to be in it. Bobby Witt, Salvi, maybe.
So do we still do captains that pick or what?
That I don't. That's a great question. I don't know.
Don't have that in
about
my notes.
Why didn't you put that in your notes? You didn't. No notes. Yeah, Sterling, no notes.
Well, not that note.
Okay. The leaders right now. Aaron,
If they could come up with like a triple derby,
Yeah.
that would be fun. Bobby would win that.
So the leaders in home runs right now: Aaron Judge 32, but he's not participating.
Ridiculous.
Otani has 27. He's not participating. Gunnar Henderson 26. He's already committed. Jose Ramirez 23. He could be in it. Santander's 22. He could be in it. Another Baltimore player. Ozuna's got 21. Atlanta. Josh Naylor has 20.
Wow.
A couple Cleveland guys. And then Soto and Harper have 20. Harper ain't participating. He's got a hamstring that's not connected to his leg right now. Kyle Tucker's on the IL. He's got 19. So those are your leaders in home runs.
Is there a
right now.
Ranger in there?
No, there's no Ranger.
I think they'll get a hometown discount.
Maybe
for
they'll go.
a Ranger.
Yeah, they.
Adolis Garcia has 16.
He's
The
got
anti Billy Butler.
Yeah, Garcia's got 16. He's batting like 215 this year, but he's got
Corey
16 home
Seager
runs.
has 15.
He might be. Corey Seager's a name too. That might be somebody if he's.
Salvi's got more bombs than Bobby.
That'd be cool because then Salvi would be able to advance instead of going up against the guy that had the most home
Right,
runs,
yes,
and he had the third
yes.
most home runs in that round, but he got
Right.
eliminated.
Yeah.
He'd be in the semis this year. Let's put him in there, man. Let's get Salvi.
I think Salvi has a chance. I mean,
Salvi to the home run
I
derby.
don't think he's like out of the home run derby. He's 14 right now. I mean,
Oh, and you know how great it would be
Oh,
if
he's at 14 too? I thought he was like at 16.
if Salvi's in the home run derby. You know how over the top ESPN's going to be when he's going in through his round. They're going to be so over the top because how much flack they took by ignoring Salvi because
I don't think
they were
remember
talking.
that.
Oh, they
slash
absolutely
care.
do.
No
they absolutely
way.
remember. Yes, they do because they brought Salvi over to the table because they got so much stuff. They were hearing about it on Twitter about ignoring Salvi's like 28 home runs he had while they were interviewing Pete Alonso.
Was that 2 years ago or 3?
It was a while. It was just a few years ago. Yeah.
I don't think that. That's
but
not going to factor.
that
in.
particular night, they definitely remembered it because they brought him over and they were talking to him, and they would be so over it. It would be great though. It'd be great. They would go
2021.
2021. Yeah, they would go way out of. How many did he have? Because he had like the second or third most
28
in the
of them
first
or something
round.
like that, yeah.
Alonso had like 102.
We had 28.
Yeah, 28. I got that one. I nailed it. Is that about Perez getting ignored? Oh, just says Salvi Club's 28 home runs in home run derby debut. I thought it was going to be Salvi Club's 28 home runs, and ESPN never notices. And ESPN had no clue because they were talking to Pete Alonso.
But to
during-
their defense, they had a guy from New York they could talk to, so that trumps everything.
That's a great point. Yeah, we'll see who's going to participate in it. But I like the rule change. It's a combination of the clock to keep it going at a good pace, while also not just swing,
Sure.
swing, no matter what. You got to be a little more efficient. You're only getting 40 pitches. So
That was
if you've got a guy,
pitches, not swings.
if you got a guy that's going to throw a cutter and throw in some on the low and outside, like, all right, dude, you're going to throw it anywhere near where I'm going to be. All right, thanks, guy. Was it Alonso's guy? Was it Pete Alonso's batting practice pitcher that threw to him? That was every single pitch was in the same spot over and over
think
again.
it was, yeah.
It was like, geez, this guy's unbelievable.
Yeah.
This guy's he's a robot. This guy's a pitching machine that would actually throw it in the same place as a pitching machine. That guy, you want to? I'm going to pay for that guy to be my pitcher to throw to me. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling, hanging out with Mick Schaefer. I want to get into a little advance of the story with Jim Schlossnagle going from A&M to Texas, with Schlossnagle saying and giving his version of a meeting that took place between he and Trev Albert, the AD at A&M. And Trev Albert has now gone on the record of what his version of what took place is, and this whole thing gets more and more convoluted. We'll take a time out and tell you what the latest is with this A&M Texas head baseball coach drama that continues to go on, because now it's a he said about how the whole thing ended up at the end. We'll take a time out. More Zone next.
Hey everyone, if you're trying to celebrate the 4th of July, stop in with Greenlight Dispensary because they're giving away a bunch of top shelf eighths for $25 off all month long, and that is for July, and they're going to be doing that this weekend to celebrate the 4th, so get in there now and get the best eighths you can find for $25. You can learn more and check them out online at greenlightdispensary.com all month long because they're going to be doing the Flower Frenzy for you, and they're going to be adding new vendors as well, so you have more options to choose from every single week. And they also have the #1 loyalty program in the state of Missouri because
Visit greenlightdispensary.com for more info.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll get to who's lighting it up here in just a little bit. Well, Rosedale's lighting it up, I can tell you that much. We're hanging out at Rosedale Barbecue, 600 Southwest Boulevard, KCK, and they've got the 90th anniversary going on, July 4th, 1934, when they opened up their doors for the first time and offering slab of ribs for $19.34 in honor of the founding year. They will have ribs available again at 3 o'clock, 3 to 3:15, 3 slabs limit, and that sale is going on through Sunday. They're open tomorrow until 4 o'clock on July 4th. Mick, what do you think?
It's so good.
I just waited for you to take a bite. I was only waiting for Mick to take a bite to then throw it. I could have been in the middle of talking about a story of...
that was your shortest question.
It was.
What'd you get? Did you get the Belt Buster?
Yep. It's amazing. It's amazing. It was wrapped up in this big, long... And the fries are wrapped up. They're crinkle cut. I got them.
It's like they brought it out in this like long thingy, and there was a sandwich, and there was bread, and there was beef in there, and it was in my mouth, and it was barbecue.
I mean, shocked that the sandwich was so big when you ordered something called the Belt Buster.
Yeah.
So it's not a bite.
Should have read into that. Should have read the room a little bit on that, huh? Yeah.
It's like, whoa, that's big.
Yeah.
It's called the
I
Belt
did order
Buster.
something with 3 meats on it.
Yes. So Jim Schlossnagle, now the head coach at Texas, formerly of Texas A&M, in one of the interviews that he did, he told a story that made it sound like Trev Albert was wanting him to leave. That, Schlossnagle was not wanted at A&M, and that's why he looked to move to Texas, was that he wasn't wanted there at A&M. And he said that Trev Alberts, out of the blue, told him that, quote, it's okay to move on if you want to move on. He said that out of the blue, all of a sudden, he has a meeting with Trev Alberts, and he tells me that it's okay to move on. And he was really taken aback and surprised by that because they didn't offer him a contract extension or anything. And Trev Albert then had an interview with the Houston Chronicle in which he sets the record straight from his standpoint and details how he went to great lengths to try to meet up with Jim Schlossnagle, including setting up a meeting. According to Trev Alberts and other donors, he set up a meeting with some of the biggest donors to meet with Jim Schlossnagle and go over contracts, what they could come up with, facilities, and he no-showed the meeting. Oh, wow. And Trev Alberts sat there with donors at a dinner, and the head baseball coach didn't show up. And this was not just Trev Alberts saying that was what happened. Trev Alberts also had not one, not two, but 3 different meetings scheduled with Jim Schlossnagle, in which every one of them, an hour before the meeting, he canceled. So he went to Jim Schlossnagle's office, and Schlossnagle was in his office with his kid, so Trev Alberts sat in the assistant coach's office and waited for Jim Schlossnagle to come out. And that's when they had the conversation about, are you happy? Are you not happy? Look, if you're not happy, it's okay to move on. Yeah. Like, if you want to move on, if you're not happy here, we're trying to take care of you. But if you're not happy, it's okay. Like, you've no-showed meetings with donors. I can't get a meeting with you to talk about your contract, to talk about moving forward. And Jim Schlossnagle says, well, he told me I can move on. Like, he just came out of nowhere and said that I can move on. He said Trev Alberts recreated the conversation and said, quote, I said, are you frustrated? Is there anything I can do? And at the end of the conversation, I said, Jim, if you're not happy here and you want to leave, that's okay. But don't hurt our program. Don't hurt our kids. He said, that's what I said. And he said, I would never do that, Trev.
Jimmy S. doesn't sound like a very good dude, if I'm being honest with you.
It's weird that Jim Schloss, I don't know.
Goes to Texas. Couldn't happen no better school.
I know. I don't know who to believe here. This one with
the one guy or the lots of guys?
Or the lots of guys that say, if you no-show a meeting with the AD and multiple donors about your contract extension, getting your team in the College World Series and having A&M at the highest level it's ever been, I don't think you want to be there. I think maybe, just maybe, you've already got another job. I'm just spitballing here. I think maybe you've already got another job. It was the fastest coaching search that took 2 months for Texas. It was the fastest 2 months for Jim Schlossnagle, who probably took the job 2 months ago, and then the next day was there. But it's just great that, like, one, he says the things that he says to the reporter about being selfish. right? And
That's almost what opened up the door for all this criticism, right? And so
now he
you
tries
can
to
make a move.
Yeah.
All the guys make moves all the time. They probably had that type of interaction with their boss all the time to where, like, I don't want to meet with him because I know I'm moving, all this stuff. And it's fine.
Yeah.
Throw in the arch rival you're going to who's coming over to your league. Okay, that adds to it. But the way he approached that question opened up the door. Because I don't. Would that have been on anybody's radar? Would we have cared where a college baseball coach moves, even the one that made it all the way to the national championship series? Probably not. But the way you treated that kid opened the door for criticism, and you peeled the onion back, folded the onion
Funny
back.
to unfolding this onions. That's right.
And you realize, okay, there's all these other stories here that don't make him look good.
And then he's trying to CYA with the A&M fans and saying the AD came to him out of the blue and said, if you're not happy, you can leave. That doesn't seem to be what reality was. All right, let's see who's lighting it up. This is such a cop-out, and it's an easy answer, but I don't care what you guys say. Who's lighting it up? It's Rosedale Barbecue for me. That's who's lighting it up for me.
Literally, they literally are lighting it up.
I'm telling you, man.
Ribs, yeah.
That's what's going on for me today. That's all I can think about right now. Who's lighting it up? Probably a lot of people around July 4th tomorrow in a number of different ways. But Sterling, who's lighting it up for you?
America. America's lighting it up. Have
Bleep,
fun.
yeah.
Well, no, have fun at work tomorrow, England.
And Mick.
And Mick, I guess. Yeah, but like seriously, USA. That's who's lighting it up. America.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're lighting it up.
That's right. I like it. I like that answer. Mick, who's lighting it up for you?
I was going to do,
America or
the family's
Rosedale?
lighting it up today. We're going after this. We're going to go get the fireworks and all that stuff.
What fireworks do you prefer to shoot off?
So I could shoot Roman candles all day.
Yeah, Roman candles are so
Let's
fun.
go. Let's go. Just have fun. Right? Or they're just the old school, just kind of black cats one at a time.
Yeah. Can I offer you a fun, dangerous thing with Roman candles?
Let's go.
Get on the back of an ATV. And you get folks with an ATV, and everyone gets a set of Roman candles, and then you just drive around shooting at each other. Now that is fun.
Yeah, I'm with Dylan on this one.
Wait, why, Dylan? Why did I get the X there? That's a fun idea.
You've never done that.
Hey, it's up there, Steve.
That
answer's up there, Steve.
I'm trying to wake up on July 5th. That's the problem. Not in a hospital bed.
I'm still here, baby.
Yes.
The stuff they sell at the stands, that's not going to hurt you. You're fine. Just
Yes.
don't go into a lab and try to
Snakes and
make some
sparklers.
ultra. Yeah,
Snakes and sparklers.
except for sparklers. Sparklers are those
the
are the
only time I
biggest
get-
injury, and they're the worst. They're the worst firework.
Yeah.
The only time I get injured with a firework was a sparkler.
Yeah. They're out in like 5 seconds.
Dylan, who's lighting it up for you?
Sterling is lighting it up for me, first of all. And then, also, I was going to do the Aces. I watched the Caitlin Clark versus the Aces game last night.
Vegas.
Asia Wilson had 28-9-1, and Kelsey Plum had 34-6-5. And they won
They're so
88-69. I mean, they are, I think they're coasting because they did the records and the standings are like fourth, but the Indiana Fever are actually in the playoffs as well. So I'll give them a little lighting it up as well.
Before we go to break and play the cuts, can we hear what Joe Dirt has to say about fireworks and
absolutely.
the good kind of fireworks that are out there, and not just those damn snakes and sparklers?
So you're gonna tell me that you don't have no black cats, no Roman candles, or screaming mimes?
No.
Oh, come on, man. You don't got no lady fingers, buzz buttles, snicker bombs, church burners, finger blasters, gut busters, zippity doo-dahs, or crap flappers?
No, I don't.
You're gonna stand there, owning a fireworks stand, and tell me you don't have no whistling bungholes, no spleen splitters, whisker biscuits, honky lighters, Husker do's, Husker don'ts, cherry bombs, nipsy-daisers, with or without the scooter stick, or one single whistling kitty chaser?
No. Because snakes and sparklers are the only ones I like.
Well, that might be your problem. It's not what you like, it's the consumer.
True words right there.
Absolutely. Snakes and sparklers are all I like. Yeah, with or without the scooter stick. We'll take a time out hanging out at Rosedale. What was that, Dylan?
No, I was saying, of course. Yeah, of course. With or without.
Yeah, because you've got your
Everyone
choice. Do I want the scooter stick or not? I don't know. The crap flappers are so great. All right, we'll take a time out, come back. Hanging out at Rosedale Barbecue. We got the cuts coming up next right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.